Welcome, friends. Let us together rebuild this world so that we may live, laugh, and lore.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Not listening. I'm not listening.
Oh, that took.
Program loaded and ready.
Make it so.
Welcome to the Live, Laugh, Lore Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Tony.
And I'm Mark, and we are back, Tony, with another guest episode.
Ooh, baby.
Another returning guest.
Yes.
I was going to say our second returning guest, but technically here's our third. Because Ben and Joe are both returning guests in our first guest episode of season 2.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the D&D.
Yeah. So now we got Paul, my younger brother, back.
Good to be back, but if you really think about it, Joe and Ben were more of like a package deal, so I am the second returning guest, which makes sense because first is the worst, second is the best.
But then you could also argue your first episode was a package deal.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, semantics, okay?
Yeah,
semantics.
No, I'm joking around.
So on that logic, this is Paul's debut.
Yeah, this is Paul's debut. Wow.
That's true. That's a good point.
This is your debut for singular Paul. So I think, both Mark and I, of course, are excited. But the listeners are also excited, too, because you're not sharing a mic this time. This is just all you, Paul. This is also a topic that I think we all we all know and love. But also, I think it's going to be a lot of fun because I think we're going to kind of just, see where this takes us. Because I feel like this is going to get into no-joke basement talk where we were growing up and having actual fights about probably this exact matter. So 10, 15 years later, very exciting. So, but Paul, without further ado, I think the podcast, they know you, but
of course.
Any other introductions, anything that's happened since your last episode? Do you feel like you have anything that you need to get out to the listeners?
I actually do. Besides there's a litany of things really, but I think one of my proudest moments occurred about 3-4 weeks back when I got Tony to start watching One Piece legitimately. Apparently he's on episode 82 now, so clearly me and Joe's episode worked.
Persuasion.
We got him in there. And we were going to do another One Piece corner here today, but we can't spoil the show for our guy.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Paul, we had Paul on the list for a returning guest for a long time, of course, and Paul came in and he's like, I want to do a One Piece episode, and he gave me 6 episodes to watch. And I started watching the series, and then Mark and I look back at the schedule and we're like, wait, I'm not going to get spoiled. These are 800 episodes on the line. So I'm like, no. Let's do a different topic. But
then Paul, they were like, Mark, you should start. And I'm like, all right, next time I'm on paternity leave, maybe I'll jump into it.
Yeah, first time you're on paternity leave. First time. Yeah. Don't want to give anybody a heart attack here. But and I think the other thing, too, that was really kind of impactful is I look back at that and 2 experiences of my life that have really resonated with me is you guys forced me to play Elden Ring, and now you guys forced me to play One Piece. Yes, of course.
Oh, wow. I thought you did that on your own free will.
Okay. My own free will. You guys were strong-arming me. But no, I think it was funny. But it is great because I did enjoy Elden Ring. And then, of course, I'm enjoying One Piece. Actually enjoying it. And I think we have a plan moving forward to talk about that more. So today, probably take a step back on it. But I think we're good. Is that your litany of lists? Do you have anything else that you wanted to...
That's the main thing, and the only thing we need to talk about.
Perfect.
Tony Mark giving me shade on the podcast.
Allegedly.
Wow.
We don't have the tapes.
Yeah.
I did think back, and I was like, I was going to record it as I was editing. I was like, well, we did call Paul out. The last one the Avatar episode that just released today.
I haven't listened to it.
Okay.
Released today.
I get him out of here.
We need to go back and do a montage of every time we talked about
Paul.
Yeah, that would be so funny.
That would be really funny. Yeah, what we talked about, in particular, that one was how we are very similar when it comes to our reactions sometimes of media, of basically, because we were talking about how the Netflix Avatar adaptation, and we were kind of going into it because we're like, Paul and I sometimes differ on how we approach our media, but I think we're the same way where we're like, I don't know, there's just this is a very sacred thing you're dealing with, right? This is like a piece of media or franchise that has been built up to a point that they've done so well on. Why are you taking these original people out? Why are you doing disservice to it? You know what I mean? So I feel like we were all kind of on that. And Mark's on that too, you know what I mean? But I did mention that because we've talked about that a lot extensively with different other pieces of media. But without...
Whereas Jenna and I are rather easily satisfied.
Yeah, for the vibe.
Yeah.
For the vibe. So yeah, we were mentioning that as well. But yeah, so maybe we'll do a montage. Maybe that'll be a little snippet or something real. It'll be kind of funny. But yeah, without further ado, so Paul, let's just get right into it. So we are talking about the world of, the franchise of Eragon,
Correct.
or the inheritance cycle.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, Eragon. Sorry,
For the
first book in the inheritance cycle.
Main character, it's a whole thing.
Not Aragorn.
I mean, the first book is called Eragon, straight up.
Yeah.
So,
In the failed movie, but we'll get into that later.
Oh,
the
dude.
movie was, again, what Tony mentioned with the whole, live action adaptations. I'm very skeptical about
much
almost
like
always.
the Avatar movie,
It
Well,
didn't
so-
exist, actually.
Yeah,
We're not talking about the blue people here, okay? We're talking about Avatar last year. Everybody knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we were talking about this actually. So Jen and I, as I read the first book, so just full disclosure for our listeners and for you guys as well, I just read this entire series last year. I started on our cruise actually December of 2023.
Okay.
And then probably took me a full year to finish this series. But it's not because I'm not a big reader. I sit down and read forever. I was reading it like a chapter at a time and doing whatever. And also I memorize as I read, so it takes me a long time to read. But I will say, though, is that after I finished the first book, we rewatched the movie. So I've watched this movie, I think, 3 times at this point. So when we were young, first time I watched it, I was like, dude, this is sick. I mean, it's like it literally Lord of the Rings, right? By the time I didn't read the books. I would just watch the movie, and I was like, wow, there's a lot going on, everything like that. And then I remember after reading the book, now watching it, I will say the biggest problem with that movie is pacing. Like
It's hard to do.
Oh yeah, it's that. But they try to fit everything in that 2-hour movie. So like, it's so funny. Like factually, relative to the book, it's not like they like veer off really hard. First off, Saphira, like that was kind of wonky, and they could have done a little bit better job to kind of personify her character a little bit better. But what I will say, like the pacing is garbo. Like it's just so quick. Everything happens, and you know what I mean. It's like you kind of look back and you just have whiplash. It's like what's going on, but. Yeah, I don't know if you have any other comments before you want to get into the books, but that was the one thing I did want to say of, like, different than Avatar Ong, like, they actually have the content. It was just really bad pacing.
Yeah, I have minimal comments because due to my impeccable effort, I've forgotten most of the movie.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to whitewash a trauma here.
Yeah. But if you're curious, that's really what, I mean, they did actually a relatively good job of factual things happening in the movie, but it was just so bad pacing.
2006.
Is that really when it was?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, they should separate those. It should have been like a Lord of the Rings. Truly, that should have been a 3.5 hour movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At best. But yeah. Sorry, Paul. I didn't want to take over that. That was the one thing I did want to mention. I know we were going to talk about the movie, but I wanted to get it out of the way, just to get in front of the people,
Rip off the Band-Aid first, and then we jump into the good stuff.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then we can talk about why they paced it, right? Because now let's talk about the actual events, because that's huge.
Yeah, for the listeners who don't know, The Inheritance Cycle, written by Christopher Paolini, correct, Mark?
Yes, that is correct.
Nailed it. He actually wrote 4 books a long time ago, titled Eragon,
Brisingr.
Eldest,
Oh.
Come on.
Brisingr, and then Inheritance, the final book.
All different colors.
All different
because of
colors.
the dragons.
Yeah.
Correct. So, according to Mark here, these books, yes, they do feature dragons. So, really, it takes place in a land called Alagasia.
But also, let's get in front of
The
this really
pronunciation
quick.
is pretty difficult for me.
We've read this book.
Yes.
There's not
like
a lot of like
times.
media. There's not a lot of like. Other than that movie, there wasn't a lot of media that surrounded this. So you're not hearing. It's not like Harry Potter. You're hearing Gryffindor, Slytherin a million times because it's a theme park. It's a movie. It's a TV show. It's all this other stuff. Like this is such a book, and it's also like Lord of the Rings. Also, can you imagine reading the Silmarillion and having no, you know what I mean, like Lord of the Rings background? Like the names are pretty wild. So I will say this is. I'm just trying to get ahead of us, basically saying our pronunciation is going to be wrong or way off. I just want to say that
at some point I'm going to try to not try to pronounce it correctly and pronounce it how I did when I read the books.
Yeah, before we even started recording, we had 3 arguments on 3 main characters and how you say their names. So just FYI. That's why when you said Alagasia and kind of went out with it, like a lot of this is just it's just phonetics. I mean, we're just reading the thing, and we also read it a long time ago, so who knows?
So also fun fact about Christopher Paolini. So, like you said, like the J.R.R. Tolkien, he made this universe and he made this language, right? But J.R.R. Tolkien, not that it wasn't impressive, but he was old when he did it.
Yeah, he's also a professor, and he like taught like English at Cambridge, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that his whole thing?
Okay. Christopher Paolini started writing Eragon at the age 15, created this whole world, and was published by 19, and still holds the Guinness World Record for the youngest published author.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew he was young. I didn't know 19. Dang. That's pretty good.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
the books are great, and
no.
And like Tony said, they are very Lord of the Rings-esque, right? But I guess not as
inspired by.
They're inspired by it. Yeah, exactly. You know, basically shot for shot. Right?
Yeah.
You pan over a misty log into a foggy area. No.
Yeah.
Eragon, you know, the main character of the story, basically starts off with him struggling through his day-to-day as like a teenager because he is just a simple farm boy, right? Raised by his uncle. He does not know his parents. His mother died when he was a child. And then it moves on slowly but surely of Eragon coming into his own when he finds a dragon egg inside the mountains, which is the spine.
So this uncle's got to be his mother's brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And they're of Cavenhall.
Correct.
Cavenhall, something.
I thought it was Carvahall.
I think it's Carvahall. I don't know.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying phonetics.
That's why I told you to bring the book out. Whatever.
Phonetics.
There's a whole map in the book for like the villages and
Yeah.
everything. Anyway, so Eragon, he finds his dragon egg, hatches it.
Doesn't even know it's a dragon egg. She thinks it's a gem.
Know. He even tries to sell it for money.
Yeah.
That's true.
But the butcher...
Sapphire blue,
baby.
Woo. Butcher doesn't want to take it, mainly because he learned it's from the spine, and he had a whole big dealing with that in the past, and he thinks it's cursed, which has reasons for.
Yeah. Well, that's what he's trying to get meat, but then he also does he goes to an actual tradesman, because the tradesmen come in, and they're selling like diamonds and precious jewels, and this guy's like, he does this whole thing, he's like, dude, this is not a gem. I don't know what this is. I could take it if you want it, like kind of deal. And it's like, oh, I don't know.
But he was unsure of the value that it would sell for, so he never took in the end. He said, I'll come next season. And this season they're referring to is the farming season, you know, and I'll bring news and whatever. But by then, it already hatched.
Paul, let's take a step back. You mentioned the spine. So for our listeners,
sure,
what is the spine?
The spine is a large mountain range running along first of all, Allegasia, thank you, is more like a continent, not really the world. That's all they know, though. But the spine is a mountain range running from the north to south western part of that world.
Gotcha. That's pretty impressive. Did you just see a map today or something?
No, I just remembered.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And there's bad juju associated with, and that's why he doesn't want anything to do with anything from the spine.
Yeah.
You want me to answer that question legitimately? Because I was going to go over an overarching... Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it helped you.
It's not really bad juju because so in this world, right? After Eragon finds the dragon egg, obviously he gets embroiled in all the conflicts and the bigger schemes, and he goes on his whole journey, which we'll talk about here shortly. But in this world, you need to know that there are 4 main races. The elves.
There's a lot, but yeah.
4 main ones: elves, dwarves, humans, and Urgles. Which, for any fantasy fan out there, they're essentially orcs. Mm-hmm. Looked a little different. They have horns on their heads.
Yeah, it was always kind of funny. They're basically, they're orcs. Yeah.
They're basically orcs. But it's
Goblin, orc, ram. Yeah, they call them rams.
Yeah.
The males are rams.
Rams, correct.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be a carbon copy, right? So it makes sense.
It's his own fun twist. And I like them. They're
But elves are always like a big deal.
enough.
I mean, that's, yeah.
But yeah, so the Urgles actually are highly persecuted, just like orcs. But this time, they have been persecuted so much from the past, which we'll talk about the society that persecuted them before.
I was about to say, I'm going to have to argue with you right there.
No, yeah.
So, no. The only thing I want to argue with is Urgles, for your Trekkies out there, thank you, how you doing, is they're basically Klingons. They're basically Klingons of the original series. Okay. Meaning, they are this warband race that their whole thing is that in order to gain political powers, you have to take and conquest.
This is correct.
So when they're persecuted normally has like a connotation of
I guess it's negative connotation. You're correct.
Meaning they're like, oh, they're persecuted, like they were doing nothing wrong. It's like, no, they were straight up killing everybody and anything. They're raiding, they're pillaging, they're doing all this stuff. So yes, they were rightfully outcast. Yes.
Not from the Urgles' perspective.
Okay, sorry.
Justice for the Rams.
Yeah, justice for the rims. I was like, geez, are you like Hermione with the socks? Like, free the house elves. I mean, come on. We're not trying to get political here, Paul, all right?
SPEW?
Yeah, spew.
Fine. They weren't persecuted, but there was a large semi-extinction-driven, like, crusade against them, right?
Correct. And they kind of did it themselves. So they were, like, killing themselves, and the people were also banding against them.
Yes.
Correct. So there's turmoil.
But they were pushed back, and for the common people, believe they're, all wiped out. But obviously, high levels know they still exist, but they're just so hard to find because they're hidden villages in the spine. So that's where all of them resided, and that's why there is bad juju, air quotes here, associated with them, because, there's just that Urgle presence that no one really knows about, and if you could get ambushed there, caravans disappear, crossing the spine, going to the coastal cities and versus the inland cities. So,
and there was general magic. I mean, it was a more eerie place, and I think the other thing on top. What do you mean?
So yes, there's magic in this world.
Correct,
obviously,
but I think
the Urgles had limited magic.
Oh, I'm not saying the Urgles had magic. I'm saying the spine was. There was some
eerie
essence.
And, yeah.
It's like Dagobah.
There was.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like there's almost like this dark side. People could feel it. And I think the other thing too is that these are farming people.
They're afraid of it.
This is literally like moisture. Dude, talk about Star Wars. Like this is literally Luke and Uncle Owen. They're like Jedi and Force. Those wizards, that ancient religion. Like they're like Pasha. Just worry about the next harvest, and that's really kind of where it got.
Well, actually, if I recall correctly, most of the villages that bordered the spine didn't really have too much fear of it, only because they lived next to it every single day.
Yeah.
And the inland had fear against it because of all the stories and the magic, etc. But when we're talking about that butcher who thought the spine had bad juju, didn't want to buy the jewel, aka dragon egg, from Eragon, his wife actually fell and died in the falls in the mountain, and that's when he's like, I am not touching anything that comes from this.
Yeah.
I refuse.
God, I can't remember his name.
Sloan.
Thank you. Golly.
I pronounced that one correctly, I'm pretty sure. Pretty straightforward.
That was straightforward. I like that. And then also, like, when we go over this high overview, I mean, we'll get into those moments, but that's literally, I mean, there's part one of Eragon, really. I mean, that's the big hit, and then...
And Carvajal's close to the spine, right? It's one of those...
Very close.
Right on the border. Yeah. But you basically got it. He's a Luke.
Yeah.
Luke. But he's not going to Tashi Station for power converters.
Well, then he's got his bonus cousin,
Oh, Rowan. Yeah.
What a bad butt, as
dude.
they say.
All right, I got some opinions, but you can keep going.
We'll get to them. Yeah.
Before we talk about the nitty-gritty of these books, which are great and the storyline is amazing, let's talk about the last important thing that the listeners here need to understand, and that is the significance of having a dragon and aka being a dragon rider, which Eragon becomes.
Correct.
Right? So
Hence the egg.
The jewel, allegedly.
In the olden days, in the early days of Allegasia,
there was a lot.
There were a lot of dragons. As a matter of fact, there were only two common races, the dragons and the dwarves. Okay?
Jeez, you're going Silmarillion. Okay.
It's
when
written
you're going
in the
back,
books.
I thought you meant
Every tree branch has a story, Tony.
all right.
I'll just get in
Let me buckle in. Sorry. I was like, when you said there's two races, I was like, what are you talking about? And then, I realized you're going way back. Keep going.
I'm getting there quick.
Sorry. I like it.
And then the humans
Elves
came along. Or I guess maybe the elves came first. Yeah, the elves came first, then the humans,
Because
and then the Urgles.
it was the elf and dragon. Dwarves are the first one that started. Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Obviously, dragons and dwarves didn't like each other. The dragons terrified them, whatever. But when the elves came along, there was a misunderstanding from the elves. And these elves were more like humans personality-wise.
Yeah.
They were mortal, but they were like superhumans, right?
Yeah.
Originally. But they still had great respect for intelligence, life, and nature. And they hunted a dragon when they first came, a baby dragon, as a common beast, not a beast with great intelligence. And that sparked a huge war between dragons and elves, which the elves regretted immensely. But as time went on, wars getting dirtier and dirtier until a young boy named Eragon, not our main character, but the namesake of him, found a dragon egg, raised the dragon, quelled the war. At the end of it, in the peace treaty, they signed, or they made a magical binding contract, basically where, the dragons would proffer an egg every year, not out of like slavery or submission of defeat, but out of peace, where this egg would meet its destined rider, and then they would enter this pact and become dragon riders, almost like a land-wide peace force that is quite powerful, magic-wise, and just offensive-wise. Yep. And that's how dragon riders started, and they became quite a big organization until they fell.
Yeah, kind of like an Avatar figure, but there's multiple.
Yeah, I was about to say too. In a weird way, it's also like Ollivander, where the wand chooses the wizard. Yeah, because it's not like, hey, we're gonna deem you as a dragon rider, pick an egg. It was instead the dragon wakes up for that rider. So then it's really up to the dragon to crack open and do all that. Yep. But yeah, that was perfect, Paul. I didn't, that's right in the money.
Well, so as you know, like I just said, the dragon riders were a huge force, highly revered and highly feared as well. Only elves and humans, when humans came along, they were also added to the pact, were dragon riders at first. But about 100 years before, or I guess longer than that, before Eragon and his story, there was an evil dragon rider whose mind was twisted through pain and anguish, basically lost his dragon, his original dragon, stole a newborn dragon, and then out of misplaced, anger at the whole society of dragon riders, killed everyone and became the sole dragon rider left and king of Alagasia. Galbatorix. And his black dragon, Shuriken.
Sick name.
And now we're 100 years later. We're in Eragon's story now. There was this mysterious egg that appears. We don't know how. Yeah. He doesn't know
and
how.
And also, it wasn't Galbatorix on Solo. I mean, there was a split, basically.
Yes, there were 12 riders.
12 or 13, I can't remember.
Oh, it's definitely 13.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because there was a split. Because basically there was like, hey, where do we go? Yeah. Like, how do we solve this out? Because the elves are like, they saw the reign of Galbatorix. He's starting to rise up. They're kind of reacting in a very conservative way, but in a very ruling way.
Well, everyone was, because no one expected these band of 13, which, by the way, it's kind of like the Force. There's light and good in this aspect. They're obviously the bad. No one expected this 13 to topple the whole regime of hundreds of dragon riders, who, by the way, are all immortal, unless killed.
Yeah.
Right?
Or the dragon's killed.
The dragon and the rider.
Immortal. And then if the rider dies, the dragon dies too.
No, not correct. They're both immortal.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, if the dragon dies and the rider's still alive, technically they are no longer immortal.
They are.
I know that for a fact.
You know what? I think you're right.
And then also, if you die,
then your dragon dies.
Sorrow, the dragon dies too.
Yeah.
But the dragon could also drop the Heart of Hearts.
No, it's both dragon and rider, since they're soul bound in this contract. That their soul basically becomes one.
Yeah. Oh, correct.
If one dies, the anguish is so great. The other usually dies, but not always. So the dragon or the rider could live.
Yeah. But it's the immortality. What's that word I'm looking for? The immortal question. The immortality is in question. That's what I'm trying to say.
For the human, yes.
Correct. For the human. I agree. Yeah. Because that was actually said. They're like, you literally age.
Elves are immortal anyway.
Because there's a prominent character who ages throughout the age, and he shouldn't have.
So the other 12, did they die, or did Galbatorix kill them?
13.
Well, is it 13 plus Galbatorix, or he's part of the 13?
13 plus Galbatorix.
Okay.
The Forsworn is what they're called.
So they all dead now?
A lot of them were killed off. Well, so first off, all of them were killed off. It just matters of what point you're looking at.
Yeah.
Because then what ended up happening is that the Dragon Riders and the Forsworn were going hand to hand. Because now they're like, wait, you basically have the Avengers who have all these superpowers, who can do all this stuff, and we need to protect the lands because now they're under Galbatorix's rule. Mm-hmm. This is really not good. And we need to start protecting ourselves. And so the races started hunkering down. The Dragon Riders started hunkering down as well, and they were fighting them, and basically all these really big battles started coming out, and they're basically trading off lives. I mean, like, they were literally, like, hand in hand trading off kills.
Yeah, and we're talking...
Which is not good.
We're talking, like, huge backstories here. But yeah, most of the Forsworn...
And we can leave up some up to the reader, too. I mean, you know what I mean?
We'll go in the nitty-gritty of each book here shortly. Not, like, super detailed, but... The Forsworn, yes, Tony's right. They all died during the war except one. Morzan. Yep. He died later.
Yeah, he
hunted
he
down
said,
by Braum, which we'll talk about.
Correct.
Yep.
He was the last. He was the greatest. He was the most mighty.
He was the right hand.
He was the right hand, and he was the last one to go.
Yep.
Allegedly.
Not allegedly. He was the last one to go.
I don't know.
Of the Forsworn?
Technically, there's what's his name again? The 13 who came back. This is a Catholic joke. I don't know.
What are you talking about?
When Judas went away, who is it? Matthias.
Matthias.
Yeah,
replaced Judas. Yeah.
Yeah, his son, brother.
Yeah,
his son
but he's not
replaced
a
him.
Force-
I mean,
not a
come
Forsworn.
on. No, he's kind of a Forsworn. There's a little bit.
He was like forced into it.
He kind of was forced. Let's be honest.
True name,
He was-
I don't know.
He was forced.
First off, this is just like, you know what? It's just like Arthur Weasley warned us. When Voldemort came to power, he said a lot of people said they were underneath the Imperiatus curse, but they might have not have been. You know, that's all I gotta say.
Like the Malfoys.
That's
right?
all I gotta say.
Yeah. Okay,
We're becoming a conspiracy theorist podcast
we
for
gave-
Eragon, actually. I really like this. I'm going to go get some tinfoil from upstairs and start putting on my hat because all I got to say is there's some questionable acts here. What are you thinking of, Paul?
I'm just thinking of the actions of the gentleman we're discussing here.
I mean, by the way, there's an additional book instead of the inheritance cycle that covers this individual, which we're talking about. It's Murtaugh. He just released a book. Like, there's a full book.
Well, there was
on
actually
his
a
actions.
novella right before that released a long time ago, but yes.
Really? Okay. Gotcha. But sorry, I keep derailing, but I thought it was fun to think about.
We gave a good backstory of the world, even some high-level stuff, right?
Yeah. We basically did the Silmarillion cover of just like, it's a quick, here's what happened in the background, here's the Dragon Riders, here's everything, here's the state of everything.
Obviously a great war amongst Dragon Riders, right? Yeah. And that's what led to where we are today.
Yeah.
And as far as Eragon knows, there's one Dragon Rider left, and it's the Evil King.
Correct.
Albatorix.
That's as far as everyone knows, really. Or common people.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah. But I guess fast forward to, let's just talk about the Book of Eragon, and then we'll, jump to Eldest, and then Brisingr, Inheritance, right? Eragon, in case you gentlemen forgot, covers the area, You know what? Well, I wouldn't say what it covers. We'll just talk about it.
Yeah, let's just go right in.
So,
and we can go high level, too. I mean, it's depending on how much you want to go into. But yeah, Eragon... He now has the egg.
He now has the egg.
Egg has hatched.
Yep.
And he is now bound to this dragon rider.
Yep.
Great.
And it's a beautiful story how it begins because, he starts trying to figure out what is happening to him. Obviously, it's a crazy thing for a farm boy to get a dragon.
Yeah.
That can speak in his head, by the way, which is wild.
It's true, all of it.
Yeah. He can barely eat, and now he has to go to dragon and be like, ooh.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a farmer's ration?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to. And she's growing like
real fast.
Yeah. But that is true. There is a psychic connection,
which
between the dragon and the dragon rider, where they can share thoughts, emotions, feeling, images. This whole 9 yards.
Whole 9 yards. But obviously, Eragon doesn't know what to do. So where does he turn to? Crazy, but he turns to the village storyteller. Maybe not crazy, because the storyteller named
the old
Braum,
Ben Kenobi.
The old Ben Kenobi.
Yep,
or a little
exactly.
bit of Gandalf.
It's
you
definitely
can
Ben
start
Kenobi.
telling, there's like, but you can start telling it's not Chris's fault. He's a great writer, don't get me wrong. But there is these arcs that you can tell. Like, it's a Ben Kenobi and Gandalf. It's a storyteller who has so much wisdom, but is kind of, everyone kind of thinks him as an old kook. Oh, that's old Ben Kenobi on the whatever. Yeah, they call him Ben. Yeah. Old Ben on the sand dune, whatever. They, same kind of thing. But here's Braum. Yeah.
Which we mentioned before. Obviously, he turns out to be pretty cool, but
oh yeah.
Braum has always told stories, right, of just like past adventures of heroes. But every year, during I forget the feast or the festival it is, but Braum tells a story of basically how Galbatorix rose up, slew the Dragon Riders, and became the king he is today in a negative context, which is punishable by death in the Empire, which is now called.
Yeah.
Right? So, obvious, and he's mentioned Dragon Riders a few times, especially in that story. So Eragon's like, I should talk to Braum. Maybe he can tell me how to take care of a dragon if I, pretend to be just asking questions for fun. Obviously, Braum figures it out real quick. But, he goes through that story, gets the name Saphira for Sapphire Dragon. Very creative, as someone would say.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful name. Don't get me wrong.
I do love the name.
Yeah.
But which he describes that in his story, and especially when he says the name, it really resonates not only with Braum, but also resonates with Eragon, because funny enough, that jewel resembled a sapphire, and the dragon that came out, sapphire. Dragon. So
egg matches the dragon.
So he was very much like, oh man, perfect name. I'll call her Saphira.
Yep.
And then now we're going to start moving forward, and we should start trying to figure out what we should do as a Dragon Rider pair.
Yeah. And he obviously takes care of her for a long time. Saphira gets large enough to ride, and he does that, right? And it's a fun experience. But one day, a couple strangers come into town, which is highly irregular, right? And they start asking questions, especially basically questions about this egg that Eragon surmises.
Yep.
Turns out there is these two high-level pursuers who track the egg to the spine and then to Carvajal, right? Because the egg wasn't just sitting there all day long. It was actually sent via magic after Galbatorix botched a recovery operation of the egg. So, to recap, about 20 years back maybe, Galbatorix was able to salvage 3 eggs from the Dragon Rider massacre. Only 3. And by the way, not just Dragon Riders, all dragons. Because at the end of the war, all dragons banded together with the Dragon Riders to fight, and they all died.
Maybe
so only
all. Rip.
Maybe all. So 3...
Allegedly.
So 3 eggs survived. And
which is also not good, because if you know biology, you can't repopulate with just shuriken.
With one male dragon, correct.
and so they're thinking that these are the last 3 dragons of the entire empire.
Yes.
Yep. And they're not hatching for Galbatorix.
Therefore, they are now stagnant, and this is a problem.
So, in the operation, there is this rebellious group, as there would be, called the Varden, right?
The
rebels.
It's the last of the resistance.
And it's an Endor.
Last of the resistance hidden with the dwarves, supported by the elves.
Yep.
In Elismira, which is the capital.
The what?
They're friends now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now they have to be, right?
Yeah.
But they infiltrate Galbatorix's keep in order to recover all 3 eggs, because they haven't hatched for all these 80 years.
Yeah.
Unsurprising, because these dragons are intelligent and are still aware, and they're not going to choose any Tom, whatever, or Harry, right? That
Tom
comes to the door.
Yeah. No Tom Bombadil.
So the operation is a huge failure because it was an ambush. It was really bad, but they somehow recovered only 1 egg, which was Saphira's egg, and it was shuttled back and forth between the dwarves / the humans who are hiding with them of the Varden rebellion, and the elves. By the way, which they are separated by north and south of the whole continent, so it's a long distance.
Yeah.
And
also, by the way, we should also mention the reason why it's being shuttled is
find a
they're
rider.
trying to find a rider. They're trying to crack this egg, and that's what I'm saying in the original. Remember, I told you how the wand chooses the wizard. It's exactly what's happening here. They have to find someone who can crack this egg.
Yes.
And that's why they're doing this. They're trying to crack the egg, so that's why they're shuttling it back and forth. And there's a pact between all 3 races saying the elves can't hog it, the humans can't hog it, and the dwarves can't hog it.
Well, actually, the dwarves are not even in the equation, because the dwarves aren't a part. They're not a part of the mystical contract.
But
right,
it was always
like,
what if?
The dwarves wanted the humans to get it, so they have more control.
Correct.
Because the humans in the Varden were housed with the dwarves.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
But either way, they were ambushed on the road, the elves, who were the couriers, and out of desperation, the team leader of the transport unit, Arya, who's we'll talk about because she's awesome.
Not Arya Stark.
Arya Stark. She used magic in an attempt to send it to Braum, because she knew of him, right? And Braum is a very important character who gets uncovered.
Magic's finicky.
Especially when you're under attack.
Especially when you're under attack.
Well,
and it's a lot of magic.
I'm thinking we just give it straight up. What happened with the magic?
Yes, I think. Okay, so here's the thing. I think we can get moving a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're 30 minutes and we went through like 15 pages of this book, but that's okay. But we're getting there. No. There's nothing on you. We're interjecting a lot, but I'm saying, Paul, let's rip it, because I think this is an important part.
Yes.
The magic is very particular. So we should talk about the magic system really quick. The whole point of the magic system is it's its own language. But the language, people slowly have to uncover it. They call it the true names. So they find the true name of something.
Or ancient language is the whole.
Ancient language is the language, but yeah. But if they find the true name of that, that's part of the ancient language. Therefore, they can have command or dominion over it.
Correct.
So this transportation spell is very particular.
Yes.
Also, all the magic is very particular. So when they say stuff, like it's almost like the classic, like kind of negative, like, words mean things. So the second you say something, that happens. Whether you like it or not, that will happen.
Yep.
So in her spell, she said, I need,
So
help of
it basically
so-and-so.
It went awry, and we'll talk about that later if we get there. But
Yeah.
it went awry. It didn't go directly to Brahm, but instead it appeared in front of Eragon, which we'll just rip off the Band-Aid now. Turns out
Eragon, Brahm's son.
Eragon is Brahm's son. That's why he's the Ben Kenobi situation. After Brahm dealt with all his stuff, he tracked down where his wife, Eragon's mother.
Well, side piece. They weren't wives, but yeah.
True.
That was a big deal because Eragon literally was like, am I a bastard?
Yeah.
He was like, ugh.
Well, their relationship was complicated, so...
In the eyes of the gods, no.
Either way, he tracked down where she left him. Like, left her with her family. Great. He stayed there the remainder of his time, looking
Because
out
this is
for
also
Eragon.
not good because he's a side piece, but she's involved with someone else.
Yeah.
Which, and this is also important because you talked about
you
having
doing?
true name because you could have dominion over somebody.
Correct.
Yes.
It's finicky because at any given time your true name can change.
Correct. Yes.
So
So your true name for like a chair or wood or whatever, those don't change.
The inanimate
But
object.
your true name
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
can change because it's
Only
defining
have
you
the
as a
change
person.
of a character.
Yeah.
Correct.
A
Right.
great change.
So if readers can put two and two together, if you find the true name out of, let's say, Tony here
Whoa.
in the ancient language, you have power, complete dominion over Tony. All you have to do is say his true name and then give a list of instructions, and he does them all to the
Ayla
letter.
Secure Lover 101.
So it's pretty dangerous.
Boom. You guys got dominion over me. Sorry. No, joking. I love you, Jenna. She's the
Yeah.
queen of my life. Love my life, queen of all angels.
But if
But
she,
whatever.
Yeah. But, I mean, but also the fairy from Ocarina of Time came up. I mean, no, I'm sure.
Navi?
No. I'm talking about the fairy.
The mother fairy, yeah.
Yes, the mother fairy, yes.
Was she called the Mother Fairy?
The
think
the
so.
fairy goddess, I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay,
not
we're
important.
gonna-
Not
I'm gonna
important.
Fairy
backtrack
fountain.
here,
I
backtrack.
just-
I love you, Jenna. Keep going.
Yeah. So, okay, we kind of talked about that. These strangers show up. Brahm realizes what's going on because he's knee deep in everything. He's
Yep.
like, we got to get out of here. They end up getting away. A few scrapes, whatever. Eragon's uncle gets killed. R.I.P. uncle.
Sorry.
It sucks, but it happened.
What's his name?
Garrow.
The old gaffer.
The
Okay.
old gaffer.
But yeah, he dies. They get away.
Darrow?
And Eragon actually has a cousin, Roran, who lived with him. He was gone at the time in a different village. And he was like, I got to go talk to Roran. I got to tell him what happened. But Brahm's like, no, we can never come back because they know who you are now and they're after you. Coming back is going to put them in greater danger.
Yep.
So they go off on their journey. Basically, they go off to different cities, right? If you guys remember, Brahm starts teaching them the way,
Yep.
only for them to get ambushed again. Brahm dies, reveals his
Really not
past as Eragon's father. He's an ex-dragon rider.
Well, it doesn't say he's his father yet, but he's just
He
an
does.
ex-dragon rider.
Yeah, but I'm just going to spill it all
Oh,
out.
yeah, no, we spilled it, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, by the way, this reveal doesn't happen until book
The father part.
3.
Three.
Okay, all right. I didn't know which one.
Who's
but-
and his dragon was also Saphira.
Boom.
That's why he named the name Saphira when he was telling Eragon stuff. And in the book, it was very
That's why I was
impactful.
nostalgic for him. That
Yeah.
was my force, because I was like, he was nostalgic for Brahm, but it was also nostalgic for Eragon. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
exactly it.
but anyways,
So technically, when you look on the wiki, by the way, the Inheritance wiki, it's Saphira too.
is it really?
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
Saphira
funny.
too. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, namesake. But yeah, I got a big kick out of that because it was literally
well,
Roman
namesake for
numeral, yeah.
Eragon and Brahm, because Saphira, the dragon, was not related to Brahm's dragon.
Oh, correct. Yeah. But-
Allegedly.
yeah, we never know.
We do know, because we know her parents' name, Saphira.
Well, first off, let's get Gregor Mendel on this. Can a bronze dragon and a red dragon create a blue dragon? You know what I mean?
Probably.
Like, how does that work?
But
Yeah. but keep going,
anyways, they get out. Eragon's now, well, actually, it's crazy enough, when Brahm dies, he meets this guy named Murtog, right? Mm-hmm. And that becomes his new companion. He ran away from
BFF.
his dad, whatever. whole big thing.
He's got daddy issues. Just let her go.
Pretty bad butt, though.
Yeah. Nice catch.
Fool of a toque.
Yep.
They end
I don't
up
think he said it, so I'll keep it. Keep it in. Yeah, let's go.
in their travels. They end up rescuing Arya. They go to the Varden, right?
Yeah.
After the escape, because they're still being pursued by the Empire this entire time.
Yeah.
Meet the dwarves. Meet the leader of the Varden there. And then, you guys remember what happened? I do. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Well, really
fight.
quick. Yeah, but really quick
I'm
before
trying
this.
to jump through all this.
Yeah. Oh no. The only thing I was gonna say is that this book is always the entire narrative is always parallel. So we're talking about Eragon's thread right now.
Yes.
So there's two threads, but when you said what happens, I thought you were dropping to the other thread. But you're saying what happens in Eragon's thread.
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, there isn't really a second.
Yeah,
thread
Rowan's
in Eragon.
thread. There's like a full half book of
Rowan only shows up in Eldest. Come on, Tony.
No. But I'm just saying the whole point is that they build up his thread, but then
in Eldest.
I know, but the second, the third, and the fourth book is literally a mix between them. That's what I'm saying. Like, like the entire.
We're still in Eragon.
We're still in Eragon. There's no parallel thread here.
I thought we were just saying the story in general. Okay, keep going.
I'm going sequential until someone stops me.
I didn't realize we're going sequential. By the way, I will say I also have it's tough for me. So when I read this book on the Kindle, if you just buy the Inheritance Cycle, it lumps all the books together.
Oh.
So for me, I have no distinction on where one book started and the other book ended.
I see.
Well, we're about to tell you.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
we won't go too crazy deep in the other three
but
books.
it was the Attack of Troll Gem or whatever that was. The place is called.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was the dwarven fortress that was housing a lot of these.
So
the Varden.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to Helm's Deep, what kind of battle are we talking, Paul?
Oh.
Actually, in desperation, probably like a 4, right? Because Helm's Deep was like
on one Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep was like 300 people versus like 10,000. The
the
Varden was like it was evenly matched, but they got destroyed via the shade.
I thought when you said desperation, meaning like this was the last line, like this was the Varden's stronghold, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it was a helm. Like this is like the last.
Yeah,
of
this
the
is
Rowan. Yeah.
this is the big stronghold, but
Yep.
of the dwarves too. But obviously, when Eragon was fleeing to the Varden, which he got information of via Arya, who was the transport person, unfortunately, he led the enemy right to the doorstep, which he got a lot of flack for.
What a noob.
He got a lot of flack for.
Hey, we have the super secret HQ. Lead me to it.
Hey, here we go.
Hey, wait,
Door's wide open.
Wait, there's an 11 Grimwald's place and there's a 13 Grimwald's place, but
And by the way, they were torturing
that was a Harry Potter.
this girl Arya for months to get this information that Eragon just gave to them. But
trust, fool of a toque.
Anyways,
that was
a
rough.
huge
That was a
battle
rough.
there, so.
Yeah.
It was quite an impactful battle. Eragon finally came to his own a little bit more.
Fully came onto his own. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because there's the main antagonist of this. By the way,
is the Shade.
Yeah, much like
Durza.
Lord of the Rings. Sauron is like the evil entity in the world, but it's the Nazguls in book 1 that really are the main antagonists.
Sure.
Same thing with Eragon. Galbatorix, this king, is this larger-than-life evil figure, but he doesn't even they only say his name. They don't even show up. The big one is the Shade, which is one of his servants, named Durza. But the whole point is like this is this entity that takes spirits, that consume into a corporeal being.
So it's a dark process where there is spirits in the world, right, that you can commune with. It's very rare that you see them naturally.
Yeah.
But with magic, you can commune with, and most of them are good. But through a dark process, you can summon spirits to inhabit a human host, which unfortunately only interests evil spirits, right?
Yeah.
They're not even calling for them necessarily. It's just a thing that only evil spirits will do.
Yeah. Or it's spirits that turn evil because you force them into a corporeal body. Because these spirits have free will. Like, they can do whatever they want, but then you force them into a body, that's even worse.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's both components.
Yeah.
The evil spirits are called, but then they're forced into it. Which they hate.
Yes.
So the Shades are amalgamation of multiple spirits. So at first, they're very powerful. Their personality's a little discombobulated. They're not super disorientated or anything, but they're kind of not knowing who they are.
But they're one entity trying to operate with like 12 mindsets.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but the longer they're alive, they get
more
a name,
powerful.
They get more powerful, and they start becoming way more of a threat. And Durza was one of the oldest servants of Galbatorix, which isn't normal, because most Shades or experiment gone wrong with like evil wizards type of thing.
The Frankenstein.
Most people can't enslave a shade, which is what Galbatorix did, which he was also really mad about because he tried to get Eragon to be like, join me, we can kill Galbatorix.
Yeah. Darth Vader vibe.
Yeah. But obviously he killed him.
Eragon, did not want to do that.
Yeah. Join me, dude. We got cookies. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But that was book one, really.
But yeah, the main point I want to bring out was that shade. That shade was a big one. And Eragon defeats the shade. So now, like...
Not without taking some damage, though.
Now without taking some damage.
His body was messed up.
Yeah, ouchie. Hachi-machi. But the big thing about Eragon, though, in this book, or honestly throughout the whole series, the reason why it's very Lord of the Ring-esque, or felt very lived in, is they always do different names. So Eragon is, Argelem, which is like the Elvish way of saying that not the Vardens use it. The whole point is like it's the Dragon Riders. It means Silverhand.
Yes.
So they call him that. They also call him Shade Slayer. Now in the Brahms sound. So it's like it's really cool because he builds out. And by the way, sometimes I want to take I'm just taking a break from the plot a little bit and just appreciating the Arthur.
No,
because I'm just
that's exactly what
this is brilliant. This is brilliant because looking back at it, it feels like a world that's lived in. He's not talking like Tolkien about this acorn on this river that's been lived on and blah blah. Like he does do that, but he's a lot quicker with it.
Yeah,
and his battles are more played out because Tolkien's like they fought, and then the next line it's like. Then the dwarves sing a song of victory with their mead, and you know what I mean?
He goes through it.
He goes through the whole battle. And I think the other thing, too, is he does a really good job of keeping up with the names and the nicknames. So it feels like a much more lived-in world because whether you're Eragon's in this context or in this context, he's referred to it differently. And I really like that. So that's why Shade Slayer is honestly what I'll call Eragon quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's his name.
And the first book is the only one I wanted to go through like this, so we can just jump to different topics. But like Tony said, Christopher here does a really good job of growing the characters, right? Who are you focusing on? Because Flame Sword as well. Because at some point through the story, Urgals are an enemy. They also even attack Trojum here in this first book. It's not even the Empire soldiers; it's the Urgals who attack, who are led by the Empire. Because Galbatorix also took them over to use them as cannon fodder. Because he also hates Urgals.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. But they get liberated when the Shades are dead. They also hate Galbatorix. At some point, the Urgals even join the rebellion against Galbatorix, which is a huge thing. But they madly respect Eragon, and they wouldn't even have joined him if it wasn't for Eragon. And they call him Flame Sword
because they saw that battle.
Because they saw that his sword was on fire when it was pretty cool.
But it's a big deal. I mean, and by the way, that's the Urgal. That's how you were saying like they were persecuted and stuff. That's when we start learning and feeling bad for the Urgals because it turns out, oh whoa. So first off, they deserve to be outskirt. They deserve to be, a little bit on the out. But then it turns out that
we start to humanize them in the story.
Yes, because Galbatorix took them over, and that's when Eragon and Varda and whoever all start looking at this, going, ooh, okay, their nature is still bad. Their leader, which I freaking love their leader. I have this name written down because I knew I was going to say it right. Nargazvog?
I forget his name. I don't think that's it.
No, it literally is. It's Nargazvog. You want to see how it's spelled?
They definitely called him that in a shorter term then.
It's that one, war chief of the
Garzvog then it should be because Nar is a title, I believe.
Oh, gotcha. So it's Garzvog. But the whole point is that he's like, my people need to change, and like there's the whole humanization. But my point is that the Shade the Shade through Galbatorix is controlling or forcing these Urgals to fight in a battle.
Yes, and they don't want to fight in.
They don't want to fight in. So that's why like now we start seeing some unrest there from the first book because they're literally cannon fodder. Literally like. The Urgals are literally thrown at like lines of defenses. They're all dying in the thousands.
Pits of fire,
it's
too.
like it's literally like okay, that's what they're doing.
And the resolution, which we can talk about at the end here, is very beautiful. How the Urgals were wrapped up through Eragon's efforts in a good way, not extinct or anything. But there's besides Eragon, there's other stories with Arya, Murtaug's storyline because we said he's this random guy who comes in. Turns out he is Eragon's half brother, who is the son of the last Forsworn, who Brom killed. So it turns out Brom and Morzan were...
They're half-brothers through the mother.
Yes, I was about to say.
Talk about a love triangle, right? They were best buds, and they They had the same woman.
Get Murray on the phone. There's some Eskimo brothers.
That's why so was she married to Morzan? And then
she was.
Yeah, and that's why.
Well, that's the thing, because Brom and Morzan were disciples as dragon riders. Morzan went evil. He killed Brom's dragon. That's why Brom killed him much later.
Yep.
But Morzan
and stole his
met
sword.
this mortal
and his woman.
And his woman.
Well, he met this mortal woman, fell in love,
et
etc.
No, I'm joking. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the sword's sick. By the way, the sword was called Razak. Razak.
What are the...
Oh, no, that's the villain. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The sword is called...
It's Misery in
Zarok.
Eldest.
It's Zarok. Sorry.
Misery.
You see how I understand it? Switched us to the Razak and the Zarok. The Zarok's the sword.
Correct. That Eragon had for a while.
Correct.
Then
but it means
Murtaugh
misery.
took it.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's a whole thing.
It's a red sword, too. Just... That's sick.
That's why Flame Tongue came from.
Yeah,
actually.
like the dragon. He had a red dragon. Morzan had a red dragon.
Oh, yes,
Well,
true.
So did Murtaugh. Yeah.
So did Murtaugh.
Which we didn't talk about. See, we're just skipping all over the place.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's reel it in. So do we want to keep going and talking about these next few books and keep going on these lines?
No, I'm good. I mean, the listeners, we give them a lot of detail, per se. And if they're a great book, you should totally read it all.
Oh, I think we should.
We didn't really, I mean, we gave you some big points here, but there's a lot more to get from these books when you read them.
Yes.
100%. Especially there's a huge point here, the fortune telling from Angela I didn't even talk about, which we won't, because I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, let's not. But that is a classic. She's just this very eccentric herbalist. And yeah, she's basically does the dragon bone fortune telling, which is like palm reading.
Oh, yeah,
basically.
I remember that, yeah.
And basically it's kind of funny because it was one of those times where like she literally says a statement that you know it's going to be true.
But you're like, how is this possible?
But how is this resolved? You know what I mean? And this is like, maybe, you know what I mean?
It is
like,
very quick.
It's
into
pretty
the
early
book.
on, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's where I was like, oh my gosh. And you missed one of my favorite characters, Jihad. He's a scholar. He's my boy.
Oh.
No, wait. He lives throughout. He's Brom's boy.
Jared, you mean? Jihad is the leader of the Varden.
Jared. It's Asajj is the leader of the Varden.
Jihad, yeah.
Yeah. It's Jeod.
Maybe that's where I got from Jihad from. Got
Yeah. Did I say that wrong?
It's Ajihad. Jihad's like struggle in like.
Oh really? Oh
like,
okay.
In like
but
Islam.
it's Jeod. It's Jeod. Jihad. That's a scholar.
I call him Jared. I don't know.
Yeah, you added 2 R's there.
That's an eighth grade.
I don't know what to tell you. You added 2 R's.
In
but,
eighth grade, you call people
yeah.
things.
Well, I called Nasadia. We already talked about that. But yeah, no. So absolutely, I would love for people to definitely read the books. So I'm thinking maybe, do you want to start talking about the stuff that you really appreciate about the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I had like 2 things I like highlighted, underlined, quadruple thread.
That and then favorite characters, and we talk about like dragons.
Perfect.
Like
and we can keep going. I think when we talk about these favorite things, we can talk about the books too.
Most likely that will happen.
Yeah, because I legit like there's a couple things where I read this and it was almost like this inheritance cycle was a little bit like the Clone Wars for me. Meaning after the first season 1, I was like, this is just like kind of like a kid's book. It felt like a young adult novel, right? That was the whole shit. And it was. The first book was written by a 19-year-old for, God's sake, for these God's sake. But the whole point is that by book 2 and book 3, even book 4, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is way deeper. And some of the depth that I really, really, really appreciate was the magic system. So I do want to talk about the magic system.
I'm in.
Of all of the magic systems I've experienced in games, books, movies, whatever content it might be, I love this magic system. I love the fact that there's this language that people really don't know, so there's an experimentation to it, but this experimentation could be very dangerous.
Sure.
Right? And I love the fact that, so they talk about in the books where basically everyone has like this reservoir of magic in them. And whether you know it or not, so for example, if I say lift this pen off this desk, that requires X amount of magic, joules of energy, whatever you want to consider it, X amount of magic, units of magic. But if I say I want the Leaning Tower of Pisa to stand up straight, we're talking tons and, a ton amount of weight. I could literally accidentally kill myself without realizing how much weight I'm trying to move or the power of magic I'm trying to emulate. So that's why they're like, dude, when you do magic, you gotta be really careful because you can accidentally kill yourself by not doing this. I thought that was such a cool mechanic that no one talks about.
Well, I for that, I really love the magic system because when we were taught it by one of Eragon's teachers, right? What's his name?
Ormus. He's my
Ormus,
favorite character.
legend.
We're not gonna talk about it
He's
yet.
the really old one, right?
Oh
Yeah.
He's the elf.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gladiator is his glad dragon. Oh, I love him.
Spoiler alert: there is one existing dragon in Dragon Rider.
Allegedly.
Golden.
Allegedly.
He's golden.
Golden.
Elismir,
Yeah, but they're both
Elismir.
handicapped.
Elismir?
Yeah, they can't.
Elismir.
Elismir.
He can't
Elismira.
fly into battle, right?
I wrote it down somewhere.
I have it right here. It's
Elismira.
Elismira. Yeah, that's what I did. It's an
Mark?
accent there.
What'd you say?
He couldn't. He was handicapped, so he couldn't.
He
Both
could
of them
fly
were.
in battle, but he was missing a leg. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gladiator was missing a leg. Ormus couldn't produce any magic anymore.
He couldn't do it on a great scale because
He would Caesar.
something with his mind, like his spirit was
Dude,
shifting.
are we about to talk about this?
We're gonna
Are
get
we
there.
about to
We'll
talk
get
But he
there.
could
about
teach.
this?
But he could
He
teach.
could
But hey, those who can do, teach.
Those
Those who
can
can teach.
Teach Dragon
shit.
Riders.
But okay, let me,
That's School of Rock for
Magic
everybody.
system,
But
right?
yes, magic system.
from my understanding of it, the Ormus's teachings, it's simple. Not just you have a reservoir of magic. It's literally just your body's energy. So let's say there's this pencil in front of me. If I use magic to pick it up, it's a waste because I could just pick it up with my hand. There's really no difference,
Yeah.
right? But through the ancient language and the way you phrase things, it could be more efficient, more streamlined, less streamlined.
Yep.
It really depends, and it depends on your person as self, right? You could have more energy.
Yep.
Dragon Riders are just naturally more, they just have more life force than others.
Well, because they're pulling off their dragon.
That too.
So that's the other thing. The connection is not only mind, physical, or mind, body, and spirit. There's this magical essence there too
And
that
that's
they
why-
can connect, and that's why they have so much more.
That's why Dragon Riders are the most powerful magicians in all of the land.
Exactly, and also that's what bleeds me into this next thing. I'm so glad you said that. My other favorite part of this magic wielding system is the fact that they can distribute the energy to inanimate objects. So, for
Very
example,
special objects.
very
Jewels.
special,
Pure jewels.
pure jewels, and that's why I loved the fact that they did the classic MacGuffin of Brahm's ring. Brahm, this whole time, he's chilling there. And he's like, for years and years, he's smoking a pipe and telling people at Carnival Hall all about the Dragon Riders. And you're like, dude, come on, Gandalf, you old man. You know what I mean? Or Ben Kenobi.
Show me
like,
some fireworks.
Yeah, give me some pizzazz. You know what I mean? I don't want you to just say, these are the droids you're looking for. You know what I mean? Like, I need something more. And it turns out that he basically gave Eragon a nuke. Which was, I've been powering this bad Johnny for 35 plus years. Here you go, Eragon. Use it whenever you want it. It's like, oh my
Well,
gosh.
Eragon didn't realize it until like way down the line. He's like, I wonder did Brahm put anything in here? And he checked it out and he's like, holy crap.
It's like 13 metric tons of magic.
He did use it all in one sitting though, but it was
Well,
for
it was a
good
cool
cause.
one. It was a
great.
cool one.
Worth
For a
it.
good cause.
It was way worth it. And then there's also Beloff the Wise, the belts. So he has
Yes.
the jewel encrusted belt that he puts in the
He
thing.
lost, but whatever.
Yeah, first off, I mean, oh, dude, I want to talk about the villains, but that was my next, actually. That was my next number two. But let's talk about number one really quick. So the other thing I really appreciate is, like, they're having these, so the energy is energy from everywhere. And there's this ancient secret across the Dragon Riders
Yes,
where
love that.
they're like, hey, we are more pacifist, right? We're these founts of magical abilities, but we're more we're supposed to be guarding and helping the lands. We shouldn't be taking lives. But there's almost like this Katara blood magic here, where they can literally stop energy from killing beings, and then they can get more energy. So then Eragon's like, because that's why he's like an elf. He doesn't eat meat. He eats, whatever. But they're like, hey, they're at these war bands, or sorry, not the war bands. They're at these militant when they're traveling to Serda and stuff like that.
They're butchering animals.
And he sits there and he's just like, pour one out for the homies, and he just absorbs all the energy the animals
has
energy.
to.
And I'm like, golly.
So that part's really cool. And
I'm like, is this book for a 13-year-old? Like, God.
well,
man.
for the listeners, he does that because they're fighting day to day, and he needs his backup energy, especially since he's fighting his half brother at the time, Murtagh, who for some reason we'll talk about he's much younger, and the dragon's much younger than them, but he is very powerful, more powerful than he should be.
Yeah.
And he's fighting Eragon toe to toe, and Eragon needs every advantage he can to defeat him.
But we should talk about it really quick. Murtagh, after the first book, gets stolen. Who knows what he's
Gets
doing?
kidnapped.
Then we do know that he goes under Galbatorix's reign. Galbatorix, figures something out about Murtagh.
Did some voodoo.
Did some voodoo. But also, more importantly, one of the eggs cracked for Murtagh.
Yes.
And then that's where the dragon gets there.
And then, whatever.
But just a really quick
red
backstory.
dragon.
But I love that. You're totally correct. He's saving up energy because he's battling these people, and he's wondering why. But that was the third part.
But for those who's counting, that means that leaves one egg remaining. Just so.
Correct.
Just
and
I don't want to say anything.
And just to throw out there for anyone who's like, how in the heck in all these years did no magician realize you can take a life force from someone? That's because generally, right, with this magic, you can pry into people's minds and either kill them, forget memories, what have you. So if you extend your mind outwards, that means there's no defense for your mind. So it's very easy for someone to pry into you.
Yes.
So most magicians shield their mind at all times, hence they can't learn that secret that they can reach out and take life force from people.
Yeah. Occlumency almost for
But
those.
essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Dragon Riders were taught the opposite. Basically, the best offense is the best defense. Always be aware of what's happening.
The best defense is the best offense. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't
Oh,
defend
no,
the mind.
I understand what you're saying.
You
flipped it.
You flipped it, but you're good.
Whatever.
Yeah, you're right. I'm agreeing with you.
Eragon and the Dragon Riders were already taught to have their minds extended outwards at all times.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the only bad thing with taking life force from something is that you still share with them their experience.
Yeah.
So that's why Eragon became vegetarian, because every life he took, he felt that death. And he just like, ooh, I can't take this.
Yeah.
So he stopped killing and eating.
He's basically mind melding people who are dying within the last few seconds of their life.
Basically.
And he's like, oh, wow, that's what death's like.
Yeah.
And he just experiences their death over and over and over again.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it does not sound fun. But at least he's going up
that's
energy
that.
for the belt, though. You know what I mean? I mean, hey, you'll have
Which he
that.
then loses, but whatever.
Allegedly. But yeah, no, so I have a few things I really appreciate these books. That was my first one. I would want to open up for you guys. What are you guys, looking back at this book, is there anything that you take away from it that you're like, wow, this is what really hooked me into this book? Because, right, this is just another fantasy book. But what makes it a great fantasy book, right? What is it? Is it the writing? Is it the content? What do you think? That's what I kind of want to throw it to you guys. Because my first one was Magic System. That's my first.
I just think he's a good writer. So we talked about kind of the series of events, but it actually opens with the chase, the hunt of the egg being curried.
Yeah.
And then that's the first chapter. And then she sends it off.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end. The next chapter. All right, we got this random farm boy, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just like,
What
so
the heck
what happened to the egg?
Yeah, he's pretty good about foreshadowing, but also not leaving you hanging.
Really good at foreshadowing.
I feel like he gives you, it's like the carrot and the rod. He's really good about like presenting something, not really giving you immediate gratification, but waiting a chapter or two and then hitting you with it.
Yeah. I also found it was really cool because I was obviously doing some research on Christopher Paolini today. So, Brisingr, the flame sword.
Yeah. Eragon's new sword at the end.
Yeah. Well, when he was writing the book, like he was having breakfast with his parents, and they were asking him how it was going.
His parents are writers.
Yeah.
That was the other thing, too, that kind of helps. It wasn't like nepotism, but it kind of helps you write a book at 19.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. But like, he's like, I want Eragon to get this sword, but I want it to like be something special, and I can't put my thumb on it. And then his dad's just like sipping coffee, and he goes, how about it just like lights on fire?
Yeah.
Just like so casually. And he's just like, that's a great idea.
That's it. Yeah. Well, because it already happened once.
Yeah.
But that wasn't that wasn't the original sword. That was a different sword.
So,
but, yeah.
well, that sword actually was a red-colored blade that he used. He used magic on just to light on fire.
Yeah.
But his sword
from Morzan's sword.
Morzan's sword. But his new sword, that's a blue sapphire to match his dragon, which is tradition for Dragon Riders.
Yeah.
Each Dragon Rider is supposed to name their sword through various reasons of Eragon's more intimate involvement in the forging versus others, and the fact that the forger believed he locked on to a part of the sword's true name.
Yes.
When he named it Brisingr, sprung it to catch in flames without harming the sword at all. Right?
Yeah.
And this is with Eragon not using any magic whatsoever. It's just him saying the word, which you can do without invoking magic.
Correct. So that's what, exactly what Paul's saying. He found the true name of his sword, which is unreal.
Part of it.
Like, part of the name. Yeah. But I will say, that was another part of the magic that I really like, is the fact that, so the whole point is that there's this old elf. She decided, I will never, after the Forsworn and everything, she's like, I will never forge another rider's sword. These hands will never forge another sword. And then here comes Eragon saying, I'm the one who defeats Galbatorix. You need to help me. Then she takes over his body. It's like the magic system is just so beautiful. I don't know.
It's
really
very
love
intricate. There's a lot of things that can... There's a lot of underlying magic stuff that can go on with it. So it's just beautiful.
Yeah, but that's why when we said he has a more intimate relationship with the forging, he's literally forging his own sword.
With his body, but not his mind, which is wild.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I think is such... What a cool twist. That's a really great point on the fact of his writing and his thought process with the magic system as a whole.
So she doesn't break her vow.
So she doesn't break her vow.
It wasn't her hands.
Exactly.
And
It's not her handiwork.
She only didn't break a vow because she didn't consider it as breaking her vow.
Exactly.
Which was, anyways.
You know, she's not in the
It's a whole
court of
thing.
law. Yeah, I mean,
right.
she did not forge
Who's going
it.
to call her on it?
Yeah, she did not forge it.
Yeah,
you know,
don't
That's
be
all I
like,
gotta
you
say.
shouldn't have done that. When
Yeah.
everyone was like, please forge this
everyone
sword.
wanted her to forge
Yeah.
it. It was her own. She was like, hey, I swore to do this. That was the other thing about
she wanted
elves.
to,
Whenever
so.
they swear something, it means something because it's immortal. I mean, they can't stop.
In the magic language, so...
Ancient language.
In ancient language, if you speak in the ancient language just without using magic, you're just speaking the truth, right? So that's why elves...
You can't lie. You literally
Correct.
can't lie.
That's why elves, when they speak in their society, when they speak the ancient language, it's at some point came very political-esque.
Yeah.
Because...
It's very binding.
Well, not only that, but they walk on eggshells when they speak. Because they could kind of inflect on something. They can say something that's the truth, but not the full truth. All that kind of stuff. But whenever you do an oath, it's in the ancient language.
Yeah.
And you invoke the magic, and it becomes binding.
Yep.
Can't break it anymore.
Yeah. No, that's huge. So what a cool system.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that system.
Yeah.
But I do have two favorite things that haven't been spoken about. One's high level, one's a little small, which also interacts with my favorite character, Roran.
Okay.
What a legend.
I mean, he's just got this giant hammer that he's
It's not even a giant
That's
hammer.
my favorite part. That he just
Alright.
takes people out with a hammer.
Mark
I think
James
it's
Mossing,
awesome.
It is a normal, just small claw hammer that, you use in like a garage.
Either way, it's a hammer.
Dude, it is funny because when I read it for a really long time, I read it as a war hammer. Like
That's what I thought. A warhammer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
But
small.
then I
That's
look
what I
back
envisioned
at
it,
it,
yeah.
and then it's like, yeah, no, it's literally what Paul's saying. It's a claw hammer. It's like that's, you know what I mean?
Hey, either
but
way.
it's like Sam White fighting with a frying pan.
Yeah,
there's something
but
to it.
The point is, even we confirmed later in the story, right? Because Eragon got help this entire time. Roran never, at least in the beginning, because Eragon gave him like some magical protection at some point, but he never had help, right? It's just Roran, which is Eragon's cousin. For the listeners, when Eragon left, he fled Carvajal to protect everyone he cared about. But unfortunately, when the Empire learned they couldn't catch Eragon quickly, they returned to capture Roran as a bargaining chip against Eragon.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And all of the
that didn't
Carvajal, all of Carvajal. It was Roran in particular, but it was also, they were just
everyone got caught up in it.
Correct, yeah.
Because no one was going to give Roran up.
Because they're cool. They're ride or die.
Except for one person, but we'll talk about it here.
I mean.
Yeah, but Roran, they weren't giving Roran up. And they started even fighting back. But the Empire sent a small contingent because they didn't expect a huge resistance.
Well, they thought, they were just going to sweep them.
Easy peasy recovery mission.
They fought back. They created defenses. They were winning. Obviously, at some point, though, Roran's like, we're losing. We need to go. After a few things that happened, especially when Roran was almost killed one night, he convinced most of Carvajal, except for a few elderly and stubborn farmers, to leave. So what they did is...
Well, because at that point, they said, you resisted, we're killing everybody.
Exactly. But Roran, this legend, just normal dude, when he starts fighting, right? Actually, let me backtrack. When they start fighting, he's like, I don't know how to wield a sword or a spear or anything. Even though the smithy there is making these on the fly for everyone.
Yeah.
He's like, what do I know? I just know a hammer. And he just picks up a hammer and goes, no pun intended, ham.
Yeah.
Okay? He starts, he just bashes people in, all that kind of stuff. But he convinces the entirety of the village to pack up everything they own, cross the spine, which
is big.
which is
no
huge,
one wants to do it.
travel to the coast, right? Hide in a cave, charter a barge
From Jihad.
from Terminal, I believe is the name, which is it's something like that.
Yeah.
But they barter a barge, meet an old spy actually from the Varden, which is very helpful for them.
That's a scholar. That's what
Yep,
I'm talking
from the
about.
scholar.
Yeah, I love that dude.
And then they travel to the next port city, pirate a huge ship that was actually meant for the Empire to go to the new battlefield that the Varden came out, they're fighting, to go to that battlefield. He did all of that and still crossed the whole coast, fighting pirates and pursuement, finally reaching the battlefield and then joining it when the Empire and the Varden first clashed.
No stop.
No stop.
Significantly helped the battle by killing 2 very powerful magicians.
With a hammer.
With a hammer.
I do love that.
You know, they call him, like, his last
Strong
name
arm.
is
Strong
Arm. Yeah,
Strong Hammer.
Yeah.
Strong Hammer.
Yeah.
He got that nickname.
Warren Stronghammer.
And
Yeah.
he did all this without any help. He goes up through the ranks of the Varden slowly but surely. There's some believed nepotism for him being the cousin of Eragon, but he proves it all himself.
Yeah.
He takes over a whole
does it,
city that is famed for its defenses with 1,000 men, which is wild if you read how he did it. Mostly, there's a lot of luck involved, but wild how he did it.
It worked out.
And he also became basically the respected human leader of the Urgles by wrestling one of their small time leaders
Yeah.
as
War
show
chief,
of respect.
war chief, yeah.
Anyways, Roran did a lot of stuff as just a normal mortal, and I thought that was really cool.
So that was your favorite part, the fact that he's mortal, where the fantasy world
this,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that was huge. I mean, we can get into favorite characters in just 1 second, because I think
That's my
a lot
answer.
Yeah. But I think the second thing I had, kind of very similar, is I really like the magic's there. It's very dynamic. It's very deep. But I really love how the depth of the villains are amazing.
Oh,
Right, meaning, so I wrote them down. I wanted to make sure I had it right. The Razak. And then they grow up to be the Leatherbaka, Blacka.
there's no way that's what they're called, but I know what you're talking about.
Letherbaka? Blaka?
I don't
Letherbaka. It's Letherbblaka. But the whole point is that they're almost like little mini dragons. And then the other one was, this is the really dynamic, well, the Shade's really cool. We talked about the Shade already, which is awesome. But the really cool one was Book of Tosk. That's the Acolytes who give up flesh that's where he loses the Beloth of the Wise belt. He's attacking those acolytes.
Oh well, they're the worshippers of the Razak.
Exactly, they're the Castle Helgrind or whatever, Helgrind or whatever.
Well, that's like the spire in
Exactly, yeah.
It's a city. I forget the name of the city.
But the point is that they're all super dynamic villains with all. Yes, there's Galbatoric influences, but they all have their own. Like, when you really think about it, like in Lord of the Rings, it's okay. You have these Nazgul who are of the 9 who went away from the men. You have Sauron, sorry. And you have Saruman who changed. But you have a couple other people who kind of changed for political power. But these are very. I don't know. I just think he did a really good job, like Tolkien, with having very believable villains who are executing and doing doing what they believe is right and doing their stuff, which I really believe in. And the fact that they have this acolyte and religious aspect to it, I don't know. I just really, I thought that was a good push forward.
I agree. And if you think about it, every single villain has their own rich backstory. And Galbatorix, the boss villain, right? Mm-hmm. He literally forced. There's no one underneath him willingly working for the man. He's forced everyone to work for him.
Service, yeah.
Exactly. But he forced them into service because he understands them. I think that's what's wild.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's one of the Galbatorix's greatest abilities.
Which
like
is
his
his undoing.
charisma, per se.
Which is his undoing at the very end.
Well, was it? I don't know.
Well, yeah, because Eragon forced it on him to relive. So he understood the people. So the full point is to use for the people, by the people.
Well, he never was, actually. He was just saying
that.
No.
But that was my very last one, by the way, in the whole villains. Galbatorix. Okay. I love Galbatorix as a villain. I think of all the villains I've ever seen, he is the one that, with everything that involves with this person.
Sure.
It's so little twiddling of the mustache for the sake of being evil. So, for example, Galbatorix, he's only mentioned in name. And whenever someone brings him up, or whenever anything happens, it's very much sinister, twist the mustache. Oh, Galbatorix, the evil empire. He stole the dragons. He's killing the people. He's starving out the poor and creating the rich richer. Like, whole 9 yards, creating society, doing everything, blah, blah, blah. But then when you actually meet him,
At the very end.
At the very end, but I love the fact that all of a sudden he's now just not the sinister mustache twirling evil guy.
Yeah.
But rather he's like, no, I just read the writing on the rules. Like, here's the elves. They think they're better than us. Here's this magic system, which inherently creates this huge power imbalance across the board, which Rowan is a great example, by the way. I will give you guys this. Rowan's a good example of you don't need magic to freaking kick butt. He's kicking butt without magic.
Yeah.
But the whole point is he's going, this whole magic system's garbage. If we have people who are able to control magic and people who aren't, we're inherently creating two classes of people, and there will always be an imbalance. I'm trying to rectify that. The elves all do magic. They're out. Anybody, you know what I mean? So he was just trying to help this out, and I really like his motivation and the way he got to where he was and why he's doing, like, the motivation. I think he's a great villain. That's all I'm trying to say.
I agree, because Galbatorix, when, this entire time, he's been absent for various reasons throughout the book, and even the past 100 years in the Empire itself.
He's just so old,
right?
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever.
And that's why the Varden and the elves, well, it's not that, but that's why the Varden and the elves have done whatever the hell they wanted. When Galbatorix, all he needs to do is just fly down there and just wipe them out.
Yes.
It's really not that hard for him. But he just doesn't care, because it's all in the background for him. But, when we meet him, he's regal, he's charismatic, he has convincing arguments. But for the listeners...
That's how he got the Forsworn,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the listeners, they need to understand that the way Galbatorix got the way he was, when he was first enlisted as a dragon rider, he was a proud young man, believing, in his own beliefs, thinking he could take on the world. He lost his dragon to Urgles, and there was a partner, I believe, with him, but he lost all of those in an attack and barely survived, right? And this is his own doing, because he went to attack them.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I hate these guys, right? And he lost everything.
Well, because he's like, dude, they're just attacking everybody. They're not doing anything. But as Dragon Riders, are supposed to keep the peace, not attack.
Actually, yes and no, because he had that prejudice, but he literally attacked a village in the spine with just women and children and maybe a couple men, if I recall.
Of Urgles.
Yeah, well, more than a couple men to take down a dragon rider, etc. But he just attacked a village in the back lines, right?
Yeah.
Wiped them all out, lost everything. But as we mentioned before, when you lose a dragon or the dragon loses a rider, it is losing like half your soul. And sometimes you die. But in Galbatorix's stage, he actually went crazy and became like misguided majorly.
More convicted in his beyond beliefs. Yeah.
He started dabbling in dark magic. And when he came back to the Dragon Riders, he was completely normal, right? Very, very normal. And he was convinced everyone because he was requesting for a chance for a new dragon, which they almost did. And they're like, Oramus, he was one of the elders back then. He was like, something doesn't seem right. No, we're not giving it to you.
Yeah.
And that's when he snapped, and a little bit of his crazy came out, because his crazy came out towards the very end of the book.
Yeah.
He stole a dragon, bent that baby dragon's mind to evil into his will, made it like a pseudo pact.
Yeah.
And then he went on his whole killing rampage, blaming all the dragon riders for his first dragon's death.
Yeah.
And that's how everything started. And
even though
crazy
he's the one who attacked
villain.
the Ergo village. And
there's just a lot of depth to the man, and it's amazing.
It's so good. I mean, come on. Talk about a villain. I mean, they can't write that in normal media now. I mean, geez, it's so good. So that was my very last thing on the things I really appreciate the book. The magic system and the villains. Those are my two, those are my cherry on top.
Yeah.
But, Paul, yours was Rowan.
Rowan, and then one more. I don't know if we want to go in depth for the, dragon
Connection?
organ dealio.
Oh, yes. I think we should.
Okay.
The Eldari.
The Eldari, I believe, is
Yeah.
called. So
because that's part of the magic system I really like too, but I think we should go to it.
So that's one of my favorites, not of what it is. So for the listeners, dragons are very powerful, magical beasts are connected to the land, right? They kept this secret about themselves for years and only revealed it to the dragon riders much later down the line, that basically they have an organ inside of themselves in which normally at the later stages of their lives they'll do it. Or just not at all. It really depends on the dragon. They can degorge a heart, what they call a heart. Which is not really the heart.
Heart of hearts.
Yeah. But it's just an organ where they can pour their consciousness into and expel it from their bodies. So
It's
literally,
a
what it
consciousness,
is
power,
it's
everything.
basically they're basically making a phylactery, if you know what that is.
D&D. Nice. Yeah. Necromancers.
If they die, or
liches do the
liches,
phylactery, yeah.
but the organ, if they're alive, all it is whoever's holding it can draw on the power of the dragon, access their memories, everything. Because this organ is
It's the essence of the dragon.
the essence of the dragon. It's
their soul.
They don't give this out lightly.
Yeah.
Right? They don't give it to people lightly, much less even just get rid of it from their bodies. But if they die, their whole being is now this heart of hearts, right?
Yep.
And that's where they reside in. And they can do magic still, they can do anything except for, like be physically moving and all this stuff. And that's another main reason why Galbatorix became so powerful, because he learned this secret, and most every dragon he killed, he forced them to release their heart of hearts. So every dragon he killed, there was another dragon on his side, because then he twisted their minds for his purposes, and that's how him and 12 or 13 others were able to defeat like hundreds of dragon riders.
Yeah.
Because this is not a normal thing. Dragon riders do not carry this with them.
Well, it's
That's why it sounds like
secrets.
that's why it sounds like a big story that like this band of 13 13
We're able
plus
to
one
take
just
out.
absolutely
took out
wild.
hundreds of
Yeah.
But the reason why I like this so much is because obviously towards the end there, Galbatorix only gets 3 eggs. How is that possible, right? There's so many things that's writing on this, and throughout the story there's small inconsistencies that you think is maybe just bad writing or plot holes, but it turns out it's the overarching high-level plot that I just love when stories have. Because Christopher, he had this secret cache of basically these Eldonari and other things that the Dragon Riders, when they saw the writing on the wall, they most likely weren't going to win. They're like, okay, we need to do everything in our power to make sure Galbatorix doesn't get anything else.
Yes.
And they hit them all. And then they even hurt themselves through various magical means, basically like self-sabotaging themselves in order to cover their tracks.
They'll never be able to remember where they're at.
Yeah, that and blowing up their entire city,
Yes.
which was amazing.
Which is cool.
But these Eldonari were put to sleep, deep slumbers, so Galbatorix wouldn't even find them because he couldn't sense them.
Yep.
But years down the line, they woke up. Then they started pulling strings, because there's hundreds of them, hundreds of dragons, although contained, putting their magic together to pull strings behind the scenes, which I loved. And that's why, for its crazy inconsistency, that in the very beginning of the book, how did Arya's magic go wrong? She was a very powerful elf.
She knew exactly where she was sending
Knew
that
exactly
egg.
where she was sending the egg.
Yeah.
Why did it not go in front of Brahm? Because the dragons were paying attention to the land, and they're like, hey, there's this kid, Brahm's son. We think he can be the one. They interrupt the magic, send it to Eragon instead, and it worked.
Yeah.
And then there are
Flow
other
of magic.
because they're just so OP.
yeah, and there are other
yeah.
past missions, like how they got Saphira's egg. Like I said, the mission was a failure, but it was a failure for one reason, because the
They wanted 3
Eldonari,
eggs, yeah.
well, the Eldonari pushed too far.
Oh.
And they spooked some people, because some people realized, low-level people realized something's going on, and they got spooked, and the mission was destroyed.
Yeah.
But they were still able to recover. But throughout the whole story, there's these things where the hands of the Eldonari are in, and it's just great to see.
Yeah.
Right? And it's also beautiful in the fact that
It's
the
a good
legacy of the
plot.
Dragon Riders
Yeah,
isn't
mechanic.
destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's still preserved, so I just like it.
It's a great plot mechanic because it really answers this, all-knowing, all-seeing entity
Right.
that some narratives really need, and that's a good example of, like, why did Arya's magic fail? Oh, it's this, you know what I mean? So it's brilliant, whether he planned it out day one or thought of it at breakfast with his dad, you know what I mean?
And that's why I go back to Roran. I love the man, because Eragon, when he met them, he was like, okay, how much input did you have in, like, my experience? And they said, we helped here and there. There was especially one point when Eragon's body was badly damaged from the shade, right? Durza. He was brought to the elves to train. There was this whole magical process that happened that wasn't intended.
It's a ritual.
And the Eldonari were really behind it, in which healed Eragon greatly, right?
Made him basically do half.
Yeah.
Made him into a half.
All they did was, because for humans, with the great magical being of elves and dragons, when they enter this Dragon Rider pact, they slowly change, basically into a half elf. They just took his transformation from day 1 to day or year 1,000. They finished it. But for Roran, he was like, okay, did you ever help my cousin? And they're like, nope, never helped him one bit. Not even one. Yeah. He did all that
Never
by himself.
touched him.
Yeah, he's like, he's pretty cool.
Yeah. He's a cool guy. Yeah.
He didn't need it. Eragon's the one who needed it.
Yeah. I mean, dang, yeah, he really needed it. But so I was about to say, so favorite character. So Paul, you're going on that one.
Roran, 100%.
Yeah, Roran. Mine's, I can't. There's
so
no other.
Cool.
Tony, there's no competition.
There is a lot of competition. There's so much competition. I have two right off the top of my head.
Give it.
Number one.
Ormus.
Sloan the Butcher.
Yeah, Ormus, 1,000%. Are you kidding me? I love Ormus. Ormus is so cool.
He's just a cranky old man.
He is not cranky.
Awesome.
Okay,
He just
Ormus
drinks
is cool.
tea and he just lets him know what's up. No, I love Ormus. I'm really partial to this. I'm really partial to like that teacher trope of, you know what I mean? Hey, especially Ormus, we're looking at it being like, hey, we really want to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward. So I'm going to teach you however best you learn. And he's kind of melding and transferring his own way how he would teach Dragon Riders at the end of the day into this crash course for Eragon, because Eragon only has a couple months. Mm-hmm. So he's like recognizing the situation, recognizing his weaknesses, his strength, and then creating and curating this teaching method for him. And I just really appreciate the fact that like he's kind of the ace in the hole for the elves. So just a quick, Ormus is the only other Dragon Rider alive when Braum dies. Braum dies, they're like, hey, we've lost it. And then Eragon goes to the city of elves, Elsmera, whatever.
Because the Varden and the elves both knew of Braum's existence. And the Varden was like, hey, we lost it. Continue.
Yes, go to the elves because you should go there anyways. They'll probably be able to teach you more on this magic thing and make you stronger.
Yeah.
Turns out the elves have their own little secret. They didn't tell anybody else, not even the Varden. Very few people know of the existence, but there is a Dragon Rider pair of both a dragon and a Dragon Rider of Ormus and Gladier. Gladier is the Skull Dragon, second book of Eldest, and it's all about them teaching Eragon the difference of magic, the Dragon Riders, the history, the intricacies, everything like the politicos, whole atmosphere of what makes them. And I think that's why I really liked Ormus. He's a teaching figure, but also Christopher's way of writing that. It wasn't like a book 5 in Harry Potter where it felt like they were just setting up, like it's Order of the Phoenix. No, they're just like setting up for books 6 and 7. This was really, they're like setting up and giving exposition, but in a way that was really interesting because it's like, whoa, there's so much more to this Dragon Rider pair than just I can hear Saphira's thoughts. Like, the whole thing is, like Paul was saying, the best defense is a really good offense where you have to be aware of everything. Mm-hmm. So they specifically was like, we're going to have, so Gladier's going to teach Saphira out 200 miles this way. I'm going to teach you here. And you should know, with your connection, everything that Saphira's doing and everything that he's basically parallel processing their teaching methods. Yeah. So you should be aware of what she's doing, she should be aware of what you're doing, and we should come back and be able to compare notes, and you guys should be letter per letter exactly what you guys did the whole day. Yeah. And I thought that was really such a cool teaching and cool mechanic because you're teaching. And it's really the mechanic of it. I love Ormus and Gladier.
And his personality is really cool, too, because, you know, you might be wondering, why are they alive and not someone else, right? These guys were elders, even when the Dragon Riders were still alive. They were part of, like, the council of elders, basically.
Yeah.
So he's super old.
He's super old. Yeah. They were the first ones to realize what were going on. And as a matter of fact, they went out to investigate first as well. But, unfortunately, they still weren't prepared for what was happening.
Well, they wanted to investigate. They weren't expecting
exactly.
They were Forsworn to be there.
There were 2 Forsworn who attacked them with Eldenari.
Yes.
So their Elder Dragon and an Elder Rider, very powerful. They were basically able to fight off
the two Dragon Riders and 2 dragons.
2 mid-level Dragon Rider pairs, and then 2 young Dragon Hearts. Yes. That's exactly how it was exclaimed.
Yeah.
They were able to fight it off. I think they killed one in battle.
I think they ended up killing actually both, but then he got severely...
I think it was only one, because at some point, one of the riders freezes them, right, with a spell.
Oh,
and they're about to die. Yeah. Right? They're about to die. So this is why Ormus
can't do spells anymore.
Is broken. because magic is finicky, and in desperation, he did something way out of his league, or most people's leagues, and he literally could... So you can transport something, obviously, because Arya transported an egg, but it's very, very difficult to do something like that.
Yeah.
He transported not only himself, but a dragon, which, by the way, is gigantic. This guy is gigantic. Just nanometers, right? Particles to break out of the spell.
Mm-hmm.
And
because there's a spell that was binding both him and his dragon.
Yes, and it shifted. He didn't shift correctly with his mind or his body, and it messed him up hard.
Yeah.
As he shifted, Galadriel got his leg cut.
Physically he shifted. He was physically successful in shifting.
Yeah, but it still messed up his
metaphysical,
body.
Yeah.
I think it was still physical as well.
I don't remember. Yeah. I just knew he was messed up.
Mm-hmm. Either way, they get away, right? Now they get to the capital.
Of the Elven City.
Of the Elven City, and then this is where it kind of gets more into my point as well. You know, they kind of say what's going on. They try to warn them. No one really believes, or they believe it. They don't think the threat. And then for some reason, they go to Elismira under their thing of recovering.
Yes.
Which is fine. But then, you know, the capital falls, the city of riders falls, and they're like, okay, let's stay here for the day that comes we're needed to train a new rider. Because we can't do anything now. Like, what's the point? We're going to ride to our deaths.
Yeah.
Turns out they were part of the whole plot of hiding everything from Galbatorix. That's why they flew to Elismira to take some Eldinari and scripts, hand it off to a completely different writer, along with stuff there, and they flew to the capital, the writers, while they stayed. But they had their memories wiped, so they never thought about that.
Yeah.
But after they teach Eragon everything, they're like, as much as we can teach you in the time we have, our purpose has been fulfilled. Now we can finally join the battle. And they suit up with their deficiencies and finally join the battle like they always wanted.
Yep.
Which was awesome.
One final ride.
Yeah.
That's why Ormus is the bomb. You just explained it to me. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I love Ormus. Ormus is the best. He's probably my top dog. The other one
I want him to die too. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
He's just sitting there.
What about Gladiator though?
Like a final stand.
They're probably ready.
Well,
to
he already
be
gave
like,
up his
that's the
elements
point.
already.
Because
that's the other thing.
That's how we figure out Eldinari.
Living dragons can still pass it off and still live afterwards. They're just weaker.
Yeah.
So he literally gives Eragon his heart of hearts, and he's like, "Okay, by the way, we're gonna go do a final stand in this battle.
Yep.
See you, bye." Yeah.
Nice knowing you.
Which is awesome.
Well, that's how Eldinari
you
are
doing?
generated. They cannot be. They're not from the dead. If you die without
Oh,
doing
correct.
it, they're
You
dead.
cannot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, he was my top. The other, my secondary one really was Auric. I love Auric.
Why does that sound familiar?
He's the dwarf half brother.
Ah.
So the Durgmus Iglem, which just means the clan of Smith,
I'm aware.
but he's the next one. I really like how it's the dwarf connection, and he just keeps him involved, and he's like, "Hey, you know what I mean?" Basically, it's hilarious. Rowan is cool, but I love his half brothers more. So, for example, Auric is up there, and the other one was
Well, he's a foster half-brother.
Bloodgram. The Blood Wolf, he's the elf that looks like a wolf almost.
He
and
is
he's a
sweet.
spellcaster.
I forgot about him.
Oh, he's the man. So those are my two next ones. Like literally Auric and those two, because they're just they're basically Eragon's bodyguards respectively at different parts of the book. Mm-hmm. They were very much entwined with him, whether that's spell making, half brothers, everything like that. I really appreciate them. I saw they were really cool characters. But Ormus is my top. Those are my 2 seconds. Rowan's
elf,
cool.
I agree.
Rowan's
forgot
cool.
about him.
But he's number 3 probably for me.
Number
3.
If I had to say a favorite character besides Roran, it would honestly be the Radzak. I'm a big villain guy.
Okay.
I do like villains. The Radzak, because we haven't really talked about them yet, they've been mentioned a few times. They were the strangers who showed up in Carver Hall that kind of pushed Braum and Eragon out. They also showed up later to get Roran, failed, but got his wife to be. Whatever, but they are specialized.
Half man, half bird.
Yeah, they're like beast people. They're a specialized hunter of men.
Yes.
That's exactly what they are. And turns out they're specialized hunters of dragons and riders as well. Very few left alive because the riders went on an even more crusade against them versus the Urgles, and there were few of them to begin with. Unfortunately, Galbatorix got his hands on them and their offspring and threatened them under his service, so they became his personal dogs, and they show up throughout the entire story, kicking butt, very dangerous things.
Yep.
Until Eragon and Roran together with Saphira, after Eragon long ago figured out where they were headquartered, stormed it, killed them all.
Mm.
Right. Very dangerous fight, which was really cool. And really cool after effects, but that was just a really cool story.
Saphira, you go.
Yeah.
I'll kill him. It's like, whoa, all right, Mr. Moneybags over here, Mr. Big
Well,
Shots.
he was only going to kill one. but
Mr.
yeah.
Corporate, all right. You know what I mean? That was funny.
Mark, what's your favorite characters?
Well, yeah, after Rowan, do you have another big one?
I mean, if I had to choose Braum, but that's really
oh,
it.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Brahms,
true. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. Honestly,
He's the OG.
Braum over Rowan.
I mean,
if I had to say it, but yeah.
And again, throwing that out there, he killed Morzan and his dragon by
Without-
himself.
Yeah.
But also the Eldenari helped him. So
That's fine.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
It's all good.
I mean, is there an asterisk next to the win? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a win. I mean, come on.
I mean, dragon versus dragon.
But also, all you gotta say is like, yeah, I slept with your girl. You know what I mean? And threw him off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't know. But yeah, you're Braum, man.
Yeah.
I like how they treat
Classic.
Braum. Yeah, he's good. Yeah. There's nothing more to it, you know? What's going on?
He's essentially the, he's the Gandalf, the Dumbledore, the
Yeah, he
old
is.
Ben, that's all you need.
Exactly. That's why, he's probably, the next second greatest teacher or Mrs. Number One. I mean, come on. But yeah, Braum is number 2. But Braum had, he was very much a teacher figure in book 1. But then
he
they
died in
start
book
realizing
1 too,
that,
so.
he was a really rough teacher, a really tough teacher. But it turns out it was just a dad who's like, no, you're going to be better than me. I need you to be better than me.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
Think better.
He
You know
couldn't
what I
even be
mean?
bothered to tell him that, oh, by
Yeah.
the way, I'm your
He was
father
too
and I'm proud of
afraid.
you.
But the funniest thing is
he
that
did,
he
though.
told Saphira.
Oh, yeah.
He told Saphira, and then Saphira there then told Eragon.
So-
which is crazy to think that, basically he was like, by the way, Saphira, don't tell your most intimate partner ever, but also, I'm his dad. You know what I mean?
forced him to swear an oath.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
she couldn't
yeah.
even. She didn't know what he was going to ask
Yeah.
until he asked it.
Which, that's got to be so tough. Can you imagine if you're like, hey, pinky swear that you're never going to tell a soul this? You're
Yeah.
like, okay.
Even the person you share thoughts with.
Yeah, then you're like, you know what I mean?
How do you
Say,
hide that,
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
don't
not like
know.
they go digging around in their memories. They have respect. You know?
I mean, they have control, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, their memories, so I guess, I don't know, but...
But I'm surprised, Tony, you never talked about with the whole magic system with dragon magic.
Oh, well, so
like
that's
wild
that's
magic.
the wild magic in D&D. So wild magic in D&D. Basically, the mechanics in D&D is you literally roll a D6, right? Or is
More
it
than
D8?
that. It depends what table you're rolling on.
Oh yeah, but the whole point is wild magic is it's just random. You roll a D whatever, and then it comes out saying, "Oh, by the way, when you try to cast a spell, this is what really happened." Dragons are very similar, where they're so powerful and they have such font of magic, but their control of it is it's so natural to them that when you ask them, "Hey, can you do X?" they're gonna go that's almost like me telling you breathe right now. You know what I mean?
They're going to say no, right?
Yeah, they don't get it. They're like, I just do this. You know what I mean? I don't really think of it. It just happens. Oh, it's like in Spider-Man No Way Home. When they go to Tobey Maguire, they're like, wait, that came out of you?
Yeah.
They're like, how do you make this? He goes, it just happens.
appears,
Yeah.
I just make it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I breathe,
Yeah. They're like, does it come anywhere else? Yeah.
And that's why
No,
the
just
writers
the
and
rest.
dragon pair were so powerful because the writers were the conduit
Yes.
for the magical, awesome power of dragons.
Exactly. They have the ability to tap the reservoir, which we're
lightning
And
rod.
they could still never even closely match the miraculous effects of dragon magic.
Yeah.
Because Saphira does it maybe 3 times. Kind of insane.
She does it a couple times. Yeah, she gives Braum the diamond tomb.
The young child she blesses.
Well, that's through Eragon.
No,
but yeah,
Eragon did it, and then she did a blessing, which
Correct.
counteracted Eragon's technical curse.
Yeah,
because he was very ignorant.
Oh, you're right. She corrects the wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other one was she fixed the Star of Troll Gem, or whatever you want to call that.
The Star Jewel, I believe.
Yeah,
it was
Star
called.
Jewel.
Okay,
Yeah.
And it wasn't Trojan because it was more of
It's the people of whatever.
it's like a special city within
I can't.
it's a special village within a large city. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
But the large city was Troll Gem. I know that
Yeah.
much at least. But but the whole point is that it's not ruckus, it's not random, but it is random. You know what I mean? It's kind of this weird, interesting. But yeah, no, those were my favorite characters, and I think the very last thing, Paul, you want to talk about was Dragon and Rider.
Yes.
If you had to do colors,
If you could be so let's roll it back. If you could
I
be
want to hear Mark's opinion on this because I feel like Mark is gonna if I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna write. You say what you want to do, but I'm gonna guess this. By the way, Paul and I had a conversation the other.
I guess. Don't leave me out on this one.
No, I won't. Paul and I had a conversation the other day, and we'll bring it. Oh yeah, we'll bring it.
Okay.
You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You weren't there for it. We'll bring it up again. But
So real quick, race, dragon color, dragon name. All races are on the table. Even though in the beginning, only humans and elves were in it, dwarves and Urgles are also on the table to be chosen.
maybe we could do this for each of us. But
We are.
I got Mark's set right now. Do you want to say it? Yeah. Well, Paul, are you done?
Wait, I gotta think of color. Ooh.
Oh, dude, I just did race, color, and the sex of the dragon. That's all.
I did not do sex of the dragon. I guess I'll do sex real quick.
Dude, that matters,
I can't
though.
guess names, so because that's too.
Oh yeah, don't
very-
guess names. That's not
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, Mark. Sorry, I don't want to put you on a pedestal. Well, I'll explain what Paul and I talked about in a second. But yeah, you go.
Dwarf,
Nailed it.
red,
Damn.
male.
Oh,
I got the middle part.
Okay, all right. So, Mark, the whole shtick was I was talking to Paul, and so I was holding Peter, and Paul was like, "Man," because we were talking about his eyesight.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. This was before. Oh, this was the bonfire night. This is bonfire night. So Paul was there. We were watching something. I think we were watching Cops, literally. Cops in the background. And we're like, well, it's probably not great for him to watch, but like his eyesight, like he can't see more than like 5 feet in front of him, or whatever it is. After that, it's just all eyesight. Paul said, "Hey, when he finally gets his eyesight, though, we'll give him the Pokemon test. So we'll give him, Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur." And I was like, if it's like freaking Mark, he's gonna pick Bulbasaur. That's the only one I'll be like. I was like, honestly, Peter can pick 2 out of the 3, but if he picks Bulbasaur, I don't know. I might have to start talking to him a little bit more intensely, being like, hey, come on, Peter, what's
Bulbasaur, man.
But then I started talking to Mark. I'm like, dude, Mark's a Bulbasaur man through and through. So then I was like, then we were talking about it. I was like, man, I've known Mark, and we've been so close for so long. I was like, I'm pretty sure I can guess almost every single one of his preference on all these stuff. So that's what got into this. So I did get it wrong. I said green dragon.
No.
So I said dwarf, green, male.
Dude,
so I was 2 out of 3.
That's crazy. I said green dragon.
Oh,
So we chose the exact
come
same thing.
on, Mark. I mean, that's on you. What's with red? Why red?
Well, my favorite color is orange, and red's the closest one to orange.
First
You
off,
could choose orange. Okay.
yeah, all the dragons, they have all the colors.
Yeah, you.
Oh, I didn't. I thought I was just thinking about the 4 book colors.
Oh, no. I respect that. That's
no,
okay.
any
Yeah,
color
yeah.
you can go for.
You can go any color. Do you want to say orange?
Yeah, hell yeah, I want an
all
orange
right.
dragon.
Dang it.
I should have said orange.
I
I didn't think you was gonna go orange.
I didn't think. I mean, I also went. I don't know why. I just felt like he was a green man, but that was Bulbasaur maybe in my head.
It could also been the preference of the prejudice, not the prejudice, the preconception of dragon colors that are in the book.
Correct. Mine is not in the book. Just letting you know that now.
Okay, so we're guessing you right now.
No. You can guess you if you want.
Definitely.
Do you want to do me? Do you want to you?
Let's go with him first.
Okay, we'll do me.
I think it's quite obvious the color, right? Let me think of the race real quick.
No, think of the race. Think of
The race will be elf.
Oh, well, Mark, what's your name? Or what's your dragon's name?
That's a hard one. I'm not.
Yeah, I have to think about that.
I did a name generator for mine. There's
That's cheap.
there's an Eragon name generator, and I thought it was great for dragons.
Yeah, I would.
Okay,
have
I
to
got
use
my
that.
name.
I would probably have like
Yeah, no worries.
Volodymyr or something like that.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah, Volodymyr. A lot of syllables.
Yeah, right.
Volodymyr.
A lot of Y's. You know?
Yeah. There's some E's in there. I don't know. But all right, do you guys want to do mine?
Yes. So
you have a guess?
obviously the color is teal.
Okay.
It's really not that complicated.
Mark, is that what you're gonna guess?
Yeah.
Okay. I had teal.
Wait,
I had teal slash the pale blue of Luke Skywalker's lightsaber before it's digitally remastered. But that's same. But it's like a sky blue actually.
Yeah.
So it's like a teal and a sky blue. If I could have if I could have the overtones be sky blue and then the undertones be teal,
which
that
exists, by the way,
it.
so that would be cool.
He was giving it away with his ring, Paul.
Yeah, the blue. Yeah, I got my blue ring on.
Silicone.
Yo, it's because I was working outside. And I don't want to my metal one, but yeah. So 1,000%. So I thought it would be too hard for you guys to guess the overtone and undertone. So I'm glad you guys went.
That wasn't even on the table.
It's steel.
Yeah.
It's steel.
We're talking generalities here, Tony. All right?
It's steel. But if I had to guess, you know what I mean. If I had to guess, I'd wait 100 years until like Dragon's Born.
Yeah.
I'd wait for that one. But yes, 1,000% elf. I mean, come on, that's
And
or
then
Mrs.
a
My
female
Boy.
dragon.
I was gonna say male.
Ooh, you know what's really funny? I was for the longest time female dragon. I talked with Jenna before this.
Sure.
And I literally told her, I said, oh, but Glemdeck was the name I found for my dragon.
Kind of sounds male-ish.
Yeah, it ended up being male.
Okay.
Because I was talking to Jenna, I was like, man, should I be female? Like, I love Saphira. I love the fact that it's like the opposite sex and you get like a brand new perspective on the world. But it's also like you're already getting the dragon's perspective, so how much does that do? And then Jenna's like, she's literally like, Tony, just get the biggest, baddest male you can. I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. So then I switched it over to male. She's like, if you're going to get a dragon, get the biggest one you can. So I was like, I'll go male. Okay. So that was inspired by Jenna, but yeah, male. But yeah, no, that was a good guess. Good guess.
So,
can I guess yours now?
Yeah, so I'm a little, cheating in a way. I have two, my main one, and then just in a different world. I don't know, just like, it's my second build.
I'm going to guess the main one.
Let's go with the main one, obviously.
Come on.
I just want to say my second one just because, like, I don't know, that also appeals to me, but it's not my top. But it's close.
If I had a guess,
is yours is the colors of the book, Paul? Or we gotta search.
Do you want me to give you that hint?
Or?
Yeah. Give us the hint. Is it outside the colors of the book?
It's within the colors of the book, the main one.
I already have it.
Would you like to go first, son?
Shoot, I have two guesses. I have two guesses.
Mark, you go first.
Black.
Correct.
Nice.
Technically, obsidian black.
Yeah, I was gonna go. Gold was my number 2. I really wrote black gold. I was like, I knew.
Is gold the second build?
No, okay. Obsidian black.
Oh,
to be exact.
It's not. Oh, okay. But gold. Okay, so black is number 1.
Yep.
Male,
yeah, for sure.
Actually, I was gonna go female for this build.
Oh. Yep. Okay, we're both wrong. Can I guess race? Do you know what the race is? Want to guess? I'm going Urgle all day.
That's what I was gonna say.
Elf.
Oh,
you guys are close.
Really?
So my second choice
is it Urgle?
Would have been Urgle male, and then it would have been Sunset Orange.
Oh wow!
All right, getting all these fancy
words
in here. Let's talk about just normal.
What's the hue?
Primary and secondary colors. All right, gentlemen.
What's the hue? Can I get the hex code of that? Actually, no, that's hilarious. I really thought. Yeah, I thought you were gonna go Urgle.
Well, Urgle's a little bit for a dragon
Elf
rider.
Is so good.
Yeah.
First off, immortality. By the way, no matter what race you choose, you're immortal.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter. I mean,
but I feel like the Urgle mindset is a little bit too off. Right now, I just don't know what they are because we've never really explored them.
Yeah.
And that's all for why I wouldn't be as a dragon rider. But I'm like, let's freaking party here. Let's go ham. Let's take some people out. I'm more of like instead of like a balanced, more of unbalanced, then definitely Urgle. Sunset Dragon male. Just
so that's
crazy.
That's your chaotic neutral. Yeah. That's your chaotic neutral. Yeah. I just knew. So Mark, with anything, you're dwarf. I knew that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on.
In every timeline, every world.
Yeah. With me, every timeline, I'm an elf all day. I love elf. Yeah. It's a penguin in every timeline. But no, I'm a huge elf boy. Yeah. I mean, you got to. Human is cool. I mean, human's just so basic.
I think it's because we're human. I don't want to be a human in a fantasy world. You know what I mean?
I was very close to choosing a human, but based off the pairing, if you read the book, there's a huge disparity amongst elven and human writers, at least in the beginning.
Yes.
Right? So human is
because there's just elves for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then
so human kind of sucks in the beginning, so elf would be fun.
Dude, but orc with the dragon. Oh, God. Well, they brought dragon eggs back to the dwarves. That's how it ends. But yeah, I really was hoping the orc would get one.
Urgle, you mean?
No, Auric, the dwarf.
Oh.
I was hoping they'd get like the dwarven rider. But they don't end it with a dwarven rider.
Yeah, I think you were saying he didn't want to be one, even he had the option. Or am I crazy?
He might have mentioned it when
like
Eragon asked him, but it was one of those things where they were bringing they're bringing eggs back there from the cache.
Yeah,
it was at the very end. They're like, "Hey, we need to do our responsibility, drag all these eggs to both the humans, the dwarves, the elves, and we need to see the new riders." Did they do Earls too?
Mm-hmm. They did all the races. Right, That's how Eragon was part of his thing to keep the peace.
But yeah, no. So yeah, that's good. Mark, I was pretty dead on. Paul, yeah, but we were like 80%. We passed. That's what matters.
It was more like 1/3. You got the color right, which was probably the most important thing, though.
We got female wrong too.
You're
right.
I
wouldn't have guessed. I thought you'd go on.
That's my balance. I was more balanced. And in a real world scenario, I need to go balance, right? And I feel like that's a perfect balance for me.
Yeah.
But in a non-real world scenario, 100% Urgle, male, Sunset Orange.
Yeah,
I'm going aggression here. I'm just going in there.
If you had to be Galbatorix, that'd be your
Actually, 100%.
the best war chief of all of Allegasia is Paul Urkel and Sunset
I could be a great dictator. I've always said it, you know.
He's a dictator in his own little
Do you want
world.
us to cut that in? Should we get that in?
That could be part of the like, you know, later episodes of like what Paul said, what you said about Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll cut that. Just that audio. Maybe when people cuss, that'll be our audio.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Super funny.
Mark, you said what?
Yeah.
But no, I think that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Paul, I totally appreciate this. I thought it was great. I think we covered so much, but I also think we left a lot for the listeners. I think that's what was more important because, like, they want to end up seeing this, seeing this. They want to end up reading this.
Right.
I feel like there's a lot more to it.
We did hit a lot of like major plot points in the book. People might be afraid that they know too much, you know, hidden lore, but don't be, right? There's a lot of
It's a lot more.
so nitty gritty
more.
character interaction and even other things we didn't even talk about. Like I said, even though like the overarching undertones, like hidden things besides the Eldenari, didn't even touch on those.
Yeah.
Plus, as you read these things, you might forget about some we said, or it might just be in the back of your memory. Trust me, it'll still be a really good read if you decide to do these.
I think if you found excitement at any point in this, you should read the book.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And the other thing too is when you and Joe went through One Piece, it's not like I'm thinking back to that episode. You know what I mean? I remember being like, "Oh, that was kind of cool. That's pretty interesting." And then I started watching the episode, and like, yeah, there might be some spoilers here and there, but in reality, I'm still getting 98% of the stuff. And honestly, of my notes, I maybe hit 20%. I mean, I hit 3 big bullet points, but you see me, I've got a page here, so it's not like I hit a lot. There's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
Same, especially in the besides the first book, which we really talked about. We didn't really talk about the second, third, or fourth.
No,
I mean,
and
we
there's
talked about some points in there, but
much. Yeah, there's so much going on. It's awesome. It's truly a great book, and I really, really appreciate it. And like I said, it was like young adult feel for the first book, but it really ramped up quick. So I really feel like it can be approachable for young adults, but I think it's
the author
also
grew up too, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. That's actually a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh, you could really tell. Like the end book, like the last few chapters of the last book to the first few chapters of the first book, you can tell. I mean, there's growth.
I mean, as a teenager too, when you're reading it, because people now, even if you're a teenager, right, you're going to read them all in one sitting. But when we were reading as teenagers, or maybe even younger than that, we grew up with the book.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another reason why we like it so much. But everyone's the same.
Well, full disclosure, I never read it growing up.
Well, that's
The
also
first
true.
time and only...
Me and Mark did.
Yeah, first time I ever read it was when I was 26, 27. So it was this past year. So like I said, I read it as an almost 30-year-old, and I really appreciate this book. So it's not like it's a young adult novel by any... I mean, it is, but I'm just trying to say, it's not like it has that feel, right? Like Harry Potter, when you read it back, sometimes you're like, oh, you know what I
Definitely
mean?
for
Like,
kids, yeah.
you get that feel kind of deal. But this one, maybe the first one for half of it felt like that way, but the rest of it really kind of sunk in too. So, but yeah, no, I think fantastic. Totally appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
So, thanks everyone for listening. As always, reach out to us with questions, mix-ups, and what-if ideas. We're open to it all.
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to ask yourself, hey, where do we reach out for these questions, what ifs, and comments? Please reach out to us at Instagram or X at the Live Laugh Lore Pod, or you can email us at the Live Laugh Lore Pod at gmail.com. That's livelaughflorepod at gmail.com.
Thanks, guys.